The world always has an original, whether it is in art or whether it is in everyday. What happens if this is replicated and remade? Does it live up to the original? The Literary License Podcast explores the world of the original and remake as we explore and see if the remake truly stands up to the original. With your hosts Joe Randazzo, John Wilson, Vicky Ray, and Keith Chago, where they ask the question, does the remake live up to the original? Hello, welcome to the Literary License Podcast. In this Remake Week, we'll be discovering two films, the original and the remake. And this week, we're covering Scarface from 1932 and Scarface from 1983. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us today. We got David Cavallo with us. Hello, David.
Hi, good evening.
And we got Joe Randazzo with us. Hello, Joe.
Hey, everyone.
And we got menopausal Vicky with us. Hello, Vicky.
I'm postmenopausal, but hello.
And I'm your host, Keith Chago. And before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to, starting with you, Vix. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
Not a whole lot, just putting out fires. I don't know if you guys heard of this yet. I didn't start watching it. I think it was on Hulu. Anybody start watching Damien?
No, I didn't even hear of it.
It's a new series about, I think it's what happens after. I haven't started it. I was just wondering if anybody started it yet.
I haven't heard of it.
It looks good. It looks good. I think it falls along the lines of the
what?
Chucky thing. Huh?
What happens after what? Damien
I think it's after, I think what happens when he's grown up and he's after the presidency and all that. I believe that's.
But he dies at the end of the third one.
I don't know. That's
he gets killed.
I don't know if this is pre or after. That's why I was asking.
Okay.
I just have to go through it. And it's like Damien, the Omen, and I think it's a sequel type kind of series.
I had no idea this existed.
No, neither did I just about 10 minutes ago. So I have no idea what it's about, but I thought I'd pick y'all's brains on that. And I finished finally Into the Darkness, part 3. I hope they make a part 4 because they can't end it like that. There's so much more to cover. Love. If you like the horror movies, fan of the genre, it's definitely got to be a must see. All 3 parts. And it's like 12 or 13 hours of
15 hours altogether.
Yeah, they're about 5 hours each. I didn't realize there was a third one.
Yeah, it came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Boy.
And I watched The Founder. It was kind of a different thing from what I'm watching. It's about how how McDonald's got founded of all things. Michael Keaton, found these two guys. They had the way they were making burgers and how they got them out. And everything else really quick. He really screwed those two guys, whoever bought the McDonald's chain. They gave both $1 million. That's all they got. Just the rest is history. But I watched my anxiety attack movie of the month, 47 Meters Down, where those girls are stuck in that cage with the sharks. So they can't get back up. That kind of stuff just makes that was well done. If you got anxiety or you got fear of closed places and shit like that, that's definitely for you. And Netflix had a really good documentary out on the Night Stalker. I wish they would make more of those because I really enjoyed that. He was a crazy son of a gun. That guy was evil incarnate.
I almost stayed at that hotel, not realizing it. I mean, obviously, this is many years after Ramirez. But I was planning a trip to LA, and I was using my laptop at work, and my manager walks over and she looks over my shoulder. She's like, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm planning this trip to LA, and I found this hotel. It's only $29 a night. Can you believe that?" The hotel that Ramirez was working out of when he was killing all.
No shit. Oh my God, I would so stay there though. I mean, I look for rooms. If they say it's haunted, I go, which room?
I'll tell you the deal breaker for me in a minute because this was during the time when that girl Elisa Lam disappeared.
Is that the Roosevelt Hotel?
No, the same hotel, the Cecil Hotel, except they found her.
Oh, okay.
They found her in the water tower. This is the hotel.
That's right. Okay, I got you now.
But I mean, even that, what got me the deal breaker for me was apparently they have one bathroom per floor.
Oh, fuck that! I've stayed in places like that.
If I'm staying in a hotel, I am not sharing my bathroom with everyone else on the floor. There's one shower per floor, one bathroom per floor. Fuck that!
I stayed in places like that.
But you could have brushed your teeth with lamb water.
They did give us a sink though. We had a sink in our room. I would go to the New Jersey Shore and stay for the summer and work. And you had to share. It was a boarding house. You had to share the whole downstairs. Everybody was sick and vomiting the night before. Used the same bathroom. You know, Wildwood, New Jersey, crazy '80s time. But yeah, I didn't like that. I want my own bathroom. Damn it! It's like that's a deal breaker.
There was a movie about him made in like I think the 80s or 90s, and Robert Zadar is in it. I haven't seen it. He gave me a copy long ago before he passed. Obviously, he didn't give it to me after. But yeah, I gotta eventually check that out. The Ramirez story has always been interesting.
It's intriguing. I don't know why, but
he wasn't Bachelor number 2 in the dating game.
That was the other one. That. Who was that?
That wasn't him. I don't know.
No, it wasn't him. It was somebody else. Now I gotta look that up while y'all are talking.
Because you ended up being a serial killer as well, didn't you?
He was a serial killer, and he was on the dating game. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember which one it was. So I guess Vicky's looking that up now.
Bachelor number 2. What about yourself, David?
Serial killer. Oh, it was Rodney Alcala.
I don't know which one that was.
Was an American serial killer. Let's see, Rodney James. He was born in San Antonio. Was there a serial killer on the dating game?
Yeah, I
don't know this guy.
Okay, I thought it was Ramirez.
Oh, Badlands.
Well, they got a picture of Ramirez here too, but he looks like Ramirez, kinda.
You know, it surprises me how some of these serial killers are actually good-looking guys who like. How did you end up?
It makes it. But that's the. I mean, the thing is. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I know they always find the weirdest photos, you know, whether it's of Charles Manson or whoever. And then that's what they publicize. The thing is, they can't look like that every day because no one would ever get in the car with them.
Well, they always look like they never bathe. I mean, look at Jeffrey Dahmer. Did that guy ever take a bath?
Well, I mean, Ted Bundy, you're fine as long as you didn't have a center parting.
Yeah, this is true.
If he had a center parting, he only killed girls with center partings. So
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know in today's day, if somebody said, please help me get my shit in my car. So, you know, then they got his cast on. It's like, nope, you're on your own, dude. Not helping you shit.
Precisely.
So much for humanitarianism.
So what have you been up to, David, last time we spoke to you?
Unfortunately, not much. The usual. I do apologize for my voice. I'm a bit sick today.
Oh
no. Yeah, it is what it is. I think I might got it from my brother. No much going on.
What were you doing with your brother?
No, well, nothing.
We got that look on his face. I told y'all. I'm telling you.
No, so we were playing a very old video game called Crash Bandicoot. I don't know if you know it.
Yes. Oh my God, my grandma loved Crash
And then that's probably how I got sick. We spent quite a lot of time together because the end of this month he's moving with his girlfriend. So at least we're spending a little bit of time together. And I managed to catch up a bit on Charmed and Angel because I need to finish those ones. And I've been watching 2 Disney movies I never watched. One is called Onwards, and one is called Luca. I don't know if you watched them as well. Quite interesting. But yeah, that's it. Oh yes, and I marathoned an animation on Netflix called Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. There's literally 3 seasons. I don't know if you watched it. I love animations.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, but I meant to say everybody needs to start watching The Last of Us. Good.
I need to watch The Last of Us.
You do? Well. It's great.
What about yourself, Joe? What have you been up to?
Sean, who's my roommate, he's on the Batman series with us. He's been out of town since Monday. So most of what I've been doing this week is I pulled like all the stuff that's like cluttering up my bedroom out into the hallway. And I'm reorganizing everything so I could actually like move around in there a little better. Like I pulled everything out of my closet and I'm looking through stuff. I found a bunch of VHS tapes. I'm like, what the hell am I still doing with these? I don't even have a VCR.
Those are scary. Remember back in the days, is it VHS or is it porn? Because you just never know what you were getting with VHS back then.
Yeah, I pulled a bunch of stuff out and the hallway leading up to my bedroom is just lined with just stuff that I've pulled out of my closets and just pulled off my floor and just I'm just stacking them up in the closet, in the hallway, while I've been getting into my bedroom and like cleaning everything, like everything that I could get to. And it's because, Sean's been gone for a couple of days. So I'm able to just kind of pull everything out and just get in there and get everything done, because otherwise, I'm blocking his view, his ability to get to and from places. So that's most of what's been taking up my week. God, it's adulting when your roommate's out of town and you're like, oh, I'm cleaning.
Oh, yeah, but it's a good thing that once you get all your stuff organized, it's like, oh, yes. So,
Yeah. Once I
normally, if I get the house by myself, I just walk around in my underwear for the whole week.
We do that here too.
I'm
priorities
all week.
Priorities, I guess.
I don't even know what a shower is when I get the house to myself.
Oh, gosh.
Well, it doesn't matter. Nobody's around.
True.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I've been watching. I've been doing a daily noir film challenge in February, and I've been doing a weekly one that's going to be taking up the whole year.
You have some really good picks.
Yeah, yesterday I just did a dump of all the reviews that I've been doing, and I noticed
that. It's like, wow, Joe's been busy. I see, boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
I mean, those are actually the dates that I watched them. I just didn't really write them up. But yesterday, when I was at work, yesterday I was just like, oh, let me just post all these. So I've been watching like one movie a day, and then I watched the two Scarfaces.
I was waiting for your tribute to Raquel Welch.
I mean, it wasn't much. It was just, but yeah.
I told you how she died.
Don't be mean.
She was floating around inside Keith Richards' body in her little spaceship, and then a white blood cell ate her.
Was she in that movie?
Yes, Fantastic Voyage. Yeah, she was.
Oh my God, how did I forget that? What is she? 82 just doesn't seem old anymore.
Well, apparently she was still in decent health, and then just like it all happened at once. Like she just got sick, and that's it.
When you get older, that's sadly what happens. Like a fall or something, or
something that would normally be okay to people.
She was still beautiful, like Sophia Loren. I mean, those women just they aged well. They aged really well.
That's what I was telling somebody yesterday. I was like, she was still really, really good looking. She was still a very beautiful woman.
That's like hearts were breaking all across the world. Because I mean, honestly, I don't know anybody. There was one guy said, who? And I go, what? I go, did you grow up on this planet? I go, what happened to you during puberty? I mean, really? Seriously? You don't know who that is?
Depending on how young you are, there's a possibility you have no idea who she is. Like,
I assume that most people know who the Hollywood basic staples were for back then, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, well, you'd assume wrong now. Yeah.
I'm amazed sometimes with names that I drop around younger people I work with, and they're like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, wait, you don't know who Mel Gibson is?
His son is up and coming. Do you see his son's making movies now?
I didn't know his son was working.
He's the spitting image of Mel.
But I brought up Mel Gibson to someone at work, and they were like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, you don't know who Mel Gibson is? Like, are you serious? Like, I get, not going into his views on the Holocaust and stuff. I get that, but you don't know that he's an actor. You don't know that he's one of the biggest stars in the history of movies. Like,
yeah,
well, they probably would know stuff like, I mean, I guess if I was going to explain Mel Gibson, I'd say Braveheart,
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, there you go, Braveheart. What is another big one?
I mean, Raquel Welch. We say like the poster in Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. Well, which is the poster for 1 million years BC. Yeah. So yeah.
That's what I got confused. They had that 10,000 BC that came out in 2016, I think.
Oh, that's got nothing to do with anything.
Nothing to do with it. Nothing absolutely. I thought they tried to do a reboot of that for some reason.
But the Raquel Welch movie is a remake. It's a remake of a version with Victor Mature and was it Carol Lombard?
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was Carol Lombard.
I don't think it was Carol. Maybe it might have been. She used to get paired a lot with Angela Lansbury back in the day. Oddly enough. And we know how much Keith loves Angela Lansbury.
Angela Lansbury's not dead. She just turned into Paul McCartney. That's why you don't see Paul McCartney and Angela Lansbury in the same room together. They look the same.
1966.
That's
And the cast was Raquel.
That's the Raquel Welch version.
That's
Carol,
yeah.
it was Carol Landis, not Carol Lombard. I just looked
Okay,
it up.
there you were.
Carol Landis and Lon Chaney Jr.
I mean, it wasn't great on neither version's really great on script anyway.
Well, I think the whole point was to look.
There's no dialogue in either one of them.
The poster alone sold. I mean, how many tickets? Because it's her. Yeah. I mean, you know that if you thought that she wasn't beautiful, I don't care what you're into, then you have issues, serious issues.
Well, I'm sure that Raquel Welch probably inspired Linda Harrison's role in Planet of the Apes. Nova.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, no kidding! I didn't think of that. That's really smart.
And Hammer was smart about it. They tried to do a version of like the sequels to it with Martine Beswick, I think, was in one of them. God, who was the other one? The other blonde that they used a lot. Was it Veronica Carlson? No, Victoria Vetri. Victoria Vetri was in one of the other dinosaur movies they made. None of them ever.
Damn, Joe, you're a walking encyclopedia. You know that, right?
That's why I never got into the good schools. I wasted my brain cells on this shit.
You know, I don't know if having the degree means anything. So.
I could have probably been a lawyer or a doctor if I'd applied this knowledge.
You probably know more about that cinema and film than any person on the planet I know. So.
What? Yeah, one person I worked with said that I probably forgot more about movies than most people know.
And he was a very cute baby. Look him up on Facebook.
Yeah, that was something. I just was scrolling.
You were so cute.
Yeah, like, oh, let me post this. It is funny, but yeah, actually, yeah. There was a release of the Victoria Vetri one, which I forget, When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, about 10, 15 years ago.
Is that the ones with the claymation?
They all had claymation. But yeah.
I'm trying to remember which one it was because I know that
Ray
Harryhausen.
Harryhausen.
Yeah, in the British version, there's topless scenes in it.
Why the British? It's here the British are upset about Hollywood nasties, and they have more tits and ass in those films than anybody else.
But in the U.S.,
we don't have a problem with sex. They have a problem with violence in this country.
But in the U.S., they released that movie cutting out Victoria Vetri's topless scenes. When Warner Brothers put it out on DVD about 15 years ago, they put a G rating on it because they thought they were putting the American version on the DVD. And parents were outraged. So they bought this G-rated dinosaur movie that they thought that they could watch with their kids. And Victoria Vetri's topless in it. So they had to recall a bunch of them. Or all of them. And then re-release it. But I had the version of it that had the G rating. And I don't know. I moved from Brooklyn to L.A., to Chicago, to New Jersey, to LA, to Chicago. I don't know where the fuck it is.
I moved a lot when I was in my 20s. I couldn't tell you where half the places I lived were back then.
Well, it's been mainly between 3 cities for me. So
you're always looking for something, chasing your tail when you're in your 20s. Or chasing tail, whichever you prefer.
I'm getting too old for it. I want to give LA one more try, but I gotta, just to see if I could finally break through again. But who knows when that's going to be. COVID kind of slowed that down because I had the money set aside for it, but then
I think COVID threw the monkey wrench in a lot of people's plans. Tell you the truth. But you'll get there. I have faith in you.
So that's basically been it. Just mainly cleaning.
Well, I've had the week off, so basically I've been watching Little People, Big World on a loop, and I'm in season 8 now.
Little People, Big World.
Yeah, it's a midget family, and they have they have a midget a midget mom and dad and a midget son.
The kids are all taller, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my God! I would fuck with my parents.
Or sorry, little people. Sorry if you're offended. If you're a midget out there, sorry. Even though they're offended by dwarfs, even though they suffer from dwarfism, which is very interesting. But I don't know. So I've been watching that on a loop, so that's been quite interesting. And then I've been watching Fucci's Gates of Hell trilogy. So I watched the first two.
Never heard of that. One.
It's City of the Dead, The Beyond, and A House Next to the Cemetery.
Oh, I've watched all those. For some reason, I thought you said it was a series. Okay.
Yeah, no, though they're part of a trilogy. The Gates of Hell trilogy. So
it's kind of an unofficial trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Beyond, I love The Beyond. I think The Beyond's one of the best horror movies ever made because
I still think City of the Dead fucked me up when I was a kid. I love it.
I just thought, the music and the way it's filmed. Especially now that they're cleaned up. Because before when they were on VHS and all that kind of stuff, you didn't realize, they were kind of
in the US.
They're pan and scanned, but when you watch them now that they're all, now they've been cleaned up and they're on Blu-ray and DVD and
it's
streaming.
Amazing,
they're beautifully looking films.
It's amazing.
We can thank Quentin Tarantino for that. Quentin Tarantino did a lot to restore The Beyond. But in the US, they cut out the score. But who did the score? Was it Claudio Simonetti or was it Fabio Frizzi? I don't remember. But the score is fantastic on the original version. The US version, they cut out the score and replaced it with like some generic shit. They toned down the violence. It was released here as the 7 Doors to Hell or 7 Doors of Hell or something like that.
Was that with Robert De Niro?
No.
Okay.
The Beyond? No.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the score. Okay.
No, The Beyond. Which is just a fantastic horror movie. One of my favorite like supernatural zombie movies. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's really a lot of fun.
It is the Gates of Hell trilogy. Why didn't I know it was called? I just watched the movies
because it's not officially that. Like the movies don't actually like. You know what? Maybe Keith would know better. Keith watched all 3 of them recently. Do they connect at all? I don't remember that.
They connect on the simple fact that there's these 3 gates of hell in the world in the States, and so basically each of them gets opened up, and it's a bit like Tears of the Mother, like Suspiria and Inferno and Tears of the Mother. Even though they're connected, they're not really connected.
Oh, they're all on Tubi too. That gives me an idea to watch them this weekend.
Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama 2 is on.
Oh my God!
I better kill this light because it's about to burn out.
Slime Bowl Bolorama, awesome stuff.
The original one was. I don't know how good this new one's going to be, but I'll check it out.
Oh no! Please tell me they aren't. They did.
I sent you the trailer last night. I don't know.
I didn't get a chance to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is on.
Sometimes we get to talking so much in those and sending links back and forth. I miss one.
And also, we're talking about Full Moon. Congratulations to Justin Martell, Matt Mangiaritis, and Ted Nicolau. They're doing Subspecies 5 is coming out soon. It's going to go to Full Moon, and then it's going to go to Tubi like everything else Full Moon does. But that's I love that series.
Them for that. I love Tubi.
I'm thankful that a couple years ago they sent me the screenplay and asked for my thoughts on it. So
that's great.
Thank you for that, guys. I did actually enjoy the screenplay as it was written. I don't remember sending back many notes. So if they filmed the screenplay that I read, then it's going to be a real treat. Because when they sent it to me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch the previous 4 movies and then dig into reading.
When did they say it was coming out, Joe?
They haven't announced a date yet. Just it's coming out. It's ready though. It's made. It'll be coming out very, very soon. The trailer dropped a couple of weeks ago, so look out for that on Tubi. Or if you're,
I love Tubi. They've got an excellent catalog.
To Full Moon's streaming service and see it faster there. I don't know what the time frame is as far as when it goes to Full Moon and when it moves over.
Anybody watch Joe Bob last Friday?
I did.
We don't get Joe Bob here, so
it's the same people behind Joe Bob's Last Drive-In that produced it, by the way. So produced a new Subspecies. I've never seen Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. I really, really enjoyed that. It was just cheesy 80s horror fun. For a long time, I thought it was meant to be a sequel to like Phantom of the Paradise or something, just because of the similar poster art. And then I realized, no, this is not related to anything when I finally watched it. I thought it was like somebody made a sequel to a De Palma movie. So
I finally watched the one with Head of the Family in it. I can never forget that ever again. That was great. That Head of the Family. The head was awesome. I'm sorry. Sometimes CGI just sucks balls. I like that shit though.
I like practical effects a lot better too. Well, what was the second feature with that one? I don't remember.
Wasn't it Necromantic? No, not that one. Necromantic was last week.
Necromantic was last week. The Head of the Family one. I'm trying to remember what the second feature
Stepfather,
was.
wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it might have been the Stepfather, maybe, or the Stepfather. No, because I remember the Stepfather being a first feature too. Now this is going to kill me. I did watch. I did not. I finally watched Necromantic. I was going to do the podcast here for it, but then
You were the ones that was going to cancel on us because you didn't want to, right?
I'm trying to remember. Oh, was it March Madness? Was that why I canceled on
March Madness? I think you had to work. I know that.
Yeah, when March Madness rolls around, it's hard for me to get the time off, but it's also money shifts. So,
hey, you got to make that money.
Oh, Habit was the second movie.
That was directed by Larry
Fessenden.
I can never say his name.
It was Larry Fessenden. That was
and it did win the Independent Spirit Someone to Watch Award. So
yeah, I remember that. Was that the Valentine's Day episode last year, or was that something else?
That was. Oh,
that was just whatever one you watched this week for.
Yeah, for last week. But I thought that wasn't his Valentine's one.
No, that's an older episode. I don't remember when that one aired.
Oh, okay, but it was Head of the Family. I missed that episode, and I ended up watching it, and it was so creepy, weird, right down to the pores and the spots on the face. I mean,
yeah. The Valentine's episode this year was Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, and Necromantic. So yeah.
The commentary.
Well, they actually married somebody during the segments.
Yes,
so.
I missed that part. I got to go back and rewatch some of that.
I did watch a really good film called Bullet Train with.
I like Bullet Train
with Brad Pitt. It's quite weird because I was given the trilogy to read because it's the second part of a trilogy.
Right.
The first part being I think it was The Goldfish, which is a Japanese film. But yeah, I thought. I mean, I read the book. I had to read the 3 books and gave reviews for them 3 years ago. So it was really good, actually. And it's quite good seeing like Ryan Reynolds and Michael Shannon and Channing Tatum.
Yeah,
name.
Got a great little bit in there. I didn't know Michael Shannon was even in it. So when he pops up, I was just dying. I loved it so much. I had heard it was terrible. So when I finally got a chance to see it, I was like, what is everybody complaining about?
I was trying to figure out what they were doing with Channing, though. It's just like he was so messed up. He was a piece of work, wasn't he?
I mean, it's a dumb action movie.
Fun.
What did you think it was going to be? What were you expecting Bullet Train to be?
And that bag.
Well, I mean, it's basically scene for scene from the book.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, the book was the book when it was released sold 25 million copies within 3 weeks, in Japan and in Europe. So it's a really good book. So, but it was good to see like the matchup. So
yeah, good for them, and like it's fun. Like I don't understand what the people who dislike about it. Like it
made its money back though.
Watch it.
Yeah. That's a good thing too.
I think they made it for like 35 million or something like that. It made something like 350 million.
Good.
So it did do well.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad it did. I'm glad something is doing well that isn't, a
Marvel.
Isn't like a Marvel film. I mean, I nothing against Marvel films making that kind of money. I'm glad something else is making that kind of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently, there's not going to be another Black Panther film, is there? Because the other one didn't do very well.
Oh, did it not do well, the new one?
Not that I saw.
It went straight to Disney Plus here.
It did here too.
No, it played in theaters here.
I played the theater for like 2 weeks here, and then what?
It didn't do well like the other, and it is on Disney Plus.
Well, I mean, Chadwick Boseman's dead.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Angela Bassett got nominated for an Oscar for it, so.
Yeah, but
That's
that
sort
might
of
be,
like Jeepers Creepers Reborn sucks, but well, the Salvo would make it though, so we all know what that is.
I've never seen any of those. I've heard the first one is apparently tremendous.
What,
I've
Jeepers
never seen-
Creepers?
I've never seen any of them.
I
the
love
first and second. The
Jeepers
first and second one is really good. So
They are.
so that you know that that pedophile makes very good
Salvo.
movies, but when he's not making them, unfortunately, kind of go down.
Well, it tells the pedo didn't make the third one, so it kind of sucked that he wasn't
yeah,
there.
and he
But
didn't make the
had to
fourth
do a
one
little-
either.
Doing a little stint in the slammer.
I don't know if we'll say it sucks that he wasn't there. It's just filmmaking wise. Apparently,
It
the
just
filmmaking
sucks
was
that he
just
didn't
good.
make the film. It sucks.
I mean,
that
I
he's
hate to say it,
confirmed.
but his films are decent though. I like Powder
I do remember seeing Powder when I was
Powder
younger.
was weird.
and Clown House.
I've never seen Clown House, but it was actually kind of funny because one night Sean was flipping through and he's like, "Oh, it's a killer clown movie called Clown House." Oh, that's the Victor Salva movie. He goes, "Which one?" I'm like, "That one, the one,
Yeah.
the one,
The
where,
movie.
The one that got him jail time.
yeah, the one where it all happened. That his,
You would
that's
think these
that
guys would
movie.
know not to do that. It just don't do it.
I
God.
know. At least you wait until you win an Oscar, and then you can get away with it.
I know. You know, do the Weinstein thing a little bit.
Yeah, precisely. Got to win before you can do anything sexually overtly. You need to make sure you win an Oscar. Then after that,
And that you're best friends with Oprah.
First, you get the power, then you get the sex.
yes.
To
And then you
paraphrase a
get
movie
to
we're
be friends with Oprah.
to paraphrase a movie we're gonna be talking about later.
And saying that brings us to Scarface from 1932, which is also known as Scarface, The Shame of the Nation, and The Shame of the Nation. It's a 1932 American pre-code gangster film directed by Howard Hawks and produced by Hawks and Howard Hughes. The screenplay by Ben Hecht is based loosely on the 1929 novel by Armitage Trail, which was inspired by Al Capone. The film stars Paul Muni as an Italian immigrant gangster, Antonio Tony Camonte, a gangster who finally rises through Chicago gangland with a supporting cast that includes George Raft and Boris Karloff. Camonte's rise to power dovetails with his relentless pursuit of his boss mistress, while his own sister pursues his best hitman. In an overtly tied to the life of Capone, one scene depicts a version of the St. Vincent Days Massacre. After
St.
Hughes has
Valentine
purchased the
Day,
rights to Trail's novel, Hughes quickly selected Hawks to direct and Hecht to write the film's screenplay. Beginning in January 1931, Hecht wrote the script over an 11-day period. Scarface was produced before the introduction of the pre-production code in 1934, which enforced regulations on film content. However, the phase code, a more lenient precursor, called for major alterations, including a prologue condemning gangsters, an alternative ending to a more clearly reprehended Camonte, and an alternative title, The Shame of a Nation. The censors believe the film glorified violence and crime. These changes delayed the film by a year, though some showings retained the original ending. Modern showings of the film have the original ending, though some DVD releases also include the alternative ending. Audience reception was positive, for censors banned the film in several cities and states, forcing Hughes to remove it from circulation and store it in his vault. The rights to the film were recovered from after Hughes' death in the 1970s, alongside Little Caesar and The Public Enemy, both 1931. Scarface is regarded as one of the most significant and influential gangster films of all time. Scarface was added to the National Film Registry in 1994 by the Library of Congress. In 2008, the American Film Institute listed Scarface as the 6th best gangster film of all time, and it was remade, as we'll see, from the 1983 film of the same title, starring Al Pacino. So we're going to do a cut to the trailer of Scarface from 1932, and be right back.
Scarface. In the 1920s, the United States was reeling under the impact of prohibition. The sale of whiskey, wine, and beer was prohibited by law, but there were many willing to break that law. Gangsters took over. Crime flourished, Mobs fought each other for prime territories.
There's no use arguing with this joint. Ziegler runs it himself. Step on it.
And blood flowed in the streets. From Hitman.
That was a fine job, Tony. Remember, that's only chicken feed. You stepped into big company.
To gang boss. This is the story of Scarface Tony Camonte, his lust for power, for fancy women.
Don't work too hard.
I just finish up tonight. Now I play a while.
His drive to be number one.
Next time I catch you in a place like that again, I'll kill you.
You're telling me what to do. What I do, fellas, is my business.
Starring Paul Muni as Scarface, and Vorak, George Raft, and Karen Morley. The crime scenes in this film are based on events that actually happened.
Don't you know it's Valentine's Day? Camonte killed Renato. Put up a fight when they tried to take him and hold up on that steel board of his. Get him.
Don't let him follow me. It's my fault. I shouldn't have come.
What's the difference? Your fault, my fault. Just so she's here, that's all what matters.
I'm not afraid. I'm like you, Tommy.
That's the way to talk. You're not afraid, huh? Come on, which door?
Produced by Howard Hughes. Directed by Howard Hawks. Scarface.
Hey, look at the monkeys there. They think they're gonna get Tony Camonte, eh?
Hello, welcome back to the License Podcast. We're discussing Scarface from 1932, and starting with you, Joe. What are your thoughts of Scarface from 1932?
Well, when we covered King Kong last year, I cited Scarface as one of the movies alongside King Kong that kind of changed cinema in general and just completely changed the game. And I think the third movie I mentioned was The Public Enemy.
Right.
This movie is way ahead of its time in terms of the style of storytelling. It gets away from that drawing room talky thing that a lot of movies, earlier on were suffering from in the early days of the talkie. And just performance wise, Paul Muni, he's amazing. When I was rewatching it the other night, I was texting Keith and Vicky, and I said, it's amazing you can't take your eyes off of Paul Muni when he's on camera. He absolutely owns every frame he's in.
He stole
and this
the
is
show for sure.
I mean, it's his show to begin with. I'm amazed that he didn't get another Oscar nomination for this one. He got it for I'm a Fugitive in a Chain Gang, but he didn't get one for this, which really, really shocks me.
Didn't you tell me this is why the Hayes Act?
This was one of the movies the Hayes Code was, because we can't have anything nice.
Right.
The movies, the violence in this movie is not like anything else that they'd seen at that point, I guess.
Pretty violent for 1932, though, don't you think?
I mean, if you watch The Public Enemy, that's the other one that has this level of violence. Little Caesar does a little bit, but not to the extent of those two. But yeah, I totally agree that Keith was saying something. Name this the sixth greatest gangster movie ever made.
Right.
I would put it in the top 10. It's very tight too. That's the other thing about it. It's 93 minutes or something like that. So it is just, there's no room for any any bullshit. Everything is just straight into the story. Every frame matters because that's just what the time of this movie needed. And God, Howard Hawks at this point. God, I really should make bullet points for myself because I don't know if how many of you guys have seen The Criminal Code which was Howard Hawks' previous film.
Boris
It was another,
Karloff.
yeah, it was another crime film. Walter Houston and Boris Karloff, and this movie and The Criminal Code, which I watched again last year for the first time in a while, just go together like a really nice pairing of gangster films. And then after this, Howard Hawks made a couple more movies and decided to just go do screwball comedies because I like 2 years after this is Bringing Up Baby. So
and His Girl Friday as well.
His Girl Friday was a few years after that, and that's another great screwball comedy. It's amazing that this guy could have that kind of variety. He can go from making the stark, dark, brutal gangster film that kind of defined that generation, and then making, Bringing Up Baby. Wait, was Bringing Up Baby his, or was that George Cukor was Philadelphia Story. But then he would go make Bringing Up Baby and His Girl Friday, two of the greatest screwball comedies ever, just shortly after this. And Dvorak as the sister is phenomenal.
She was 16 when she made that film.
When she made this film?
She was 16 years old, the sister.
I didn't know. I never looked that deeply into her past.
Yeah, she was 16 because she had to have her mother on set. She had to have special permission from her mom because she was only 16. She was cast when she was 15, but she was filmed when she was 16.
What actress was that?
The one who plays his sister.
And she was
she did look really young.
I didn't realize she was that young.
And very emotional.
I mean, yeah, but that's also just the way they portrayed women back then. The women in this movie are not really that important, except
she was kind of Betty Boopish, wasn't she? Was it Divine?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
a little bit.
She was very sexually open, though.
Very.
She wasn't like, she didn't start off as like this innocent little flower who slowly start corrupted by love. She was out there for the partying from the very start.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess this will be like, I know the film was made in 1931, but I think it's more glamorizing before the Depression, isn't it? Really, it doesn't take place before the Depression.
It's set in the 20s.
Yeah, so therefore.
What song was he whistling? That's making me nuts.
Oh, hold on. It's from an Italian opera. I'm trying to remember what it was. Trying to remember. Where is it? Because I made sure to make a note of it, because once I remembered what it was, I had to actually sit there and go, okay, let me write this down. And now,
because I don't know why I didn't write it down. Now it's bugging me and I can't find it.
It is.
Did you notice that every time somebody died, the X showed up?
He was whistling.
A lot of symbolism with the X. So
it's Lucia di Lammermoor.
Okay.
Lucia di Lammermoor. Oh, yes.
There you go, Debbie. Thank you.
That's what it was. I was like, when I finally figured it out, I'm like, that's what it is. Let me write it down. And I made a note because I knew I wasn't going to remember it here. But it's fantastic because it's the first thing you see in the movie is the shadows on the wall as who is this person that's creeping up onto this guy and killing him, and eventually you realize it is Tony.
It does kind of hit the road running, doesn't it? Because there's not really even a slow burn. It's just like death.
No, right away, murder. First minute, murder. It's really, really fast. That's what I really like about this version. It's not really boring. Fast.
It's not boring. No, it's just bam, 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 bam the whole time.
Yeah, it doesn't have the time to ever slow down because there's only like 93 minutes, and there's a lot of story in that 93 minutes.
It's kind of a marriage between silent film and talkies, though, as well. It's kind of that bridge in between the film techniques. If you look at, because it's filmed like a silent film, but it has the talkie. I'm just talking about the way the film cameras are like set up and the way it's filmed and the makeup that the people are wearing. If you took the sound off, you'd think you're watching a silent film.
So you think it was more produced or like a non-talkie movie? Is that what you're saying?
Well, talkies are new at this point. I think. This came.
But they still have the makeup. Yeah. Okay.
But the talkies were when did Jazz Singer come out? 1929.
29. Oh no, 27. Wait,
27.
Oh wow, is that a talking movie? I don't remember.
The Jazz Singer, Al Jolson, the Jazz Singer.
Is that a talkie?
That was the first talkie film.
Okay.
Actually, that's the thing that I always notice with these early Howard Hawks movies, because even when you watch Tiger Shark, where Edward G. Robinson is a fisherman that catches his wife in bed with his first mate. And then there's and before this, when he made the Criminal Code, like, yeah, the makeup. Like, if you look at Walter Houston's makeup in the Criminal Code, it looks very much like a silent movie.
Right.
But I appreciate that because, Keith said if you watch it,
it's all wwonderful stuff. I mean, it's like an archaeological find as far as I'm concerned.
I mean,
1920. But what I'm saying is it's not a critique or anything like this.
No, I know.
But the thing is, but it shows that basically
the transition
at that time, because at the same time, even though they had talkies, though the film, the camera, the technology in the camera has them produced. So basically, they still have to use those extremely strong lights and everything like that. Right. So basically, in 1931, when they're doing a film, the reason why the makeup's the way it is because basically the lights had to be so strong that each film, if you're making a film at that time, you're basically sitting in like 90 to 100 degree heat.
I was wondering, that's gotta be really oppressive.
So that's the reason why when you see like Ann Novak's makeup and stuff like this, that's the reason why the makeup's the same. But it's almost like we can see where it's being married because Howard Hawks at the same time is moving his camera a little bit more than it's not a stationary camera that's happening either. Exactly. So you're getting a little bit more movement and stuff like that. So,
and I mean, you said if you watched it with the sound off, you'd think it was a silent movie, but you'd also if you watched it with the sound off, you could still follow everything that's going on in the story. It is just unbelievably visual. Hawks is not only is Hawks constantly moving his camera, the way the story's told could be told without any dialogue. You could absolutely understand everything that's going on. You can see the power dynamic between the characters. Everything is just laid out completely visually, and it's fantastic because of it.
And George Raft didn't really have to. He had a lot to go by when it came to gangsters. I guess he grew up in the same areas with Bugsy Siegel and
George Raft.
He already knew gangsters apparently.
George Raft is another one that he's kind of a minor gangster movie star, but he probably could have been a major gangster movie star if he'd made the right decisions. There's I guess that the story's apocryphal. I don't know that he supposedly turned down Casablanca. I don't know if that was actually true. But there's a rumor that Raft was offered the Humphrey Bogart role in Casablanca, and he refused to do it. But at the same time, there's also studio memos from the 30s when Bogart did his one horror movie, The Return of Dr. X. The director Vincent Sherman, I think a memo exists sending that was sent to Sherman just after filming began that said, make Bogart look great because we're going to be pushing him to the stratosphere after this movie. So I don't know exactly if that's true because it seems like the studio got behind Bogart, but the rumor is Raft refused it. I don't know where that story came from, but They Drive by Night is a really good one that he did with Bogart in the late 30s. He's always been somebody who I really enjoy seeing, but he kind of slipped in the middle there. Like didn't really fall out of doing them, but he was kind of never really became the big star everybody thought he would.
Mm-hmm. I guess Al Capone liked the movie so much he had his own copy.
It's kind of like when you for those of you that watched The Offer on Paramount Plus last year.
God,
the way Joe Colombo was proud of The Godfather.
That was so funny. Honestly, I didn't realize they went through that much hell to get that film done.
Oh yeah.
But I looked it up, and a lot of that shit's real. That actually happened. And they had a hell of a time getting the Italians to let them make this movie.
This movie also had, gangsters that were making sure that what was being put out there wasn't anything that was going to be detrimental to them. Or no, not enough people know about that. We can't put that in. And the author of the novel, whose name escapes me at the moment. Apparently he was watched closely by by the gangland too, to make sure he wasn't putting anything in the novel that wasn't okay with them. So this was a time when the mafia had a lot of pull into the 70s and 80s.
Well, Hecht, who wrote the screenplay for this anyway, I mean, he knew Capote. And while he was writing this, basically, Capote sent 2 men to visit him in Hollywood to make sure the film was not based on his life. He told, and Hecht told them that Scarface character was a parody of numerous people, and the title was chosen as it was intriguing and nothing to do with the scars based on Capote's own face. And the 2 people left Hecht alone, and Capote took tell us that basically that his henchmen helped form the movie.
I would not have wanted to piss off Al Capone. I mean, he used to beat people over the head with baseball bats at dinner. I mean, nobody really wanted to piss the man off. So
that's a different Brian De Palma movie.
I know, but I mean, he actually did that though, and they show it in different movies. He did beat people over the head with baseball bats. He was not a nice guy, and by the time I think a lot of this, he was dying of syphilis. He was already losing his shit anyway. So I mean, didn't they have penicillin back then?
No, I don't think they had penicillin until the 40s.
Yeah, penicillin came around the 40s. So I mean, everyone was walking around with syphilis at that time anyway. So
everybody was losing their fucking minds.
The 20s were roaring.
What was that, Jim?
The 20s were roaring.
They definitely were roaring.
As much as like the media in the 50s would have you believe everything was like this Ozzie and Harriet life. The 20s and 30s, there was a lot of stuff going on. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard the movie Babylon tackles a lot of it. Like,
I haven't seen it yet.
What was his name? Fatty Arbuckle killed a woman.
That was actually I was actually reading about that because I was reading the autobiography of the silent comedian who made a lot of films, Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton, okay.
Buster Keaton. And he was good friends with Fatty Arbuckle. And basically what happened was that he was accused, and at that time they were cracking down on him anyway, and couldn't find out that Fatty Arbuckle didn't even know the woman. It came out later. It came out like 20 years later that these 2 never knew each other.
Was he railroaded?
Basically it happened at a party, and because he went and got his coat, and then they think someone else went in, and they think it might there has been links that it might have something to do with Charlie Chaplin, because he had a weird sexual fetish with sticking foreign objects up inside women.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like we were saying, the 20s were roaring.
Foreign objects? I'm intrigued.
Well, the woman died for being raped with a Coke bottle.
Holy shit, man! I could think of other things.
And Fatty Arbuckle went on trial for it. They all thought Fatty Arbuckle did it, and I think the girl that was with, because I think it was 2 girls were with whoever.
He didn't do it though, right?
Yeah. No, he had kind of find out that the other girl said no, actually he didn't do it because he was actually with me, and it broke up his marriage. He lost his Hollywood career. He lost everything.
He did. Yeah, that's awful.
He did come back though in the early 30s.
Yeah.
He did have a little bit of a resurgence because he made those shorts with Shemp Howard and all that stuff at Warner's in the early 30s. So they did attempt to bring him back. It wasn't very successful. He was never going to be as big as he was.
Well, Rudolph Valentino got killed with a platinum dildo.
Is that how he died?
Hollywood Babylon. Read Hollywood Babylon if you ever want.
I've not read it. I'm serious. I mean, is that how he supposedly died?
There's so many of these stories from that time period, just about like just massive orgies and everybody fucking everybody else and.
Rudolph Valentino apparently he was given this gift. I can't by someone famous. He was given this platinum dildo because he liked things that were well endowed. Rudolph Valentino, and so he's given
what did he like? His bread buttered on both sides or something?
No, he only liked it buttered on the one side. He was gay. But,
I see. I thought he liked.
But he was what you would call a size queen. So. So, but he was given this platinum dildo that would eventually someone would break into his house and end his life by killing him with it.
No
so
shit, I didn't know that. How did I not ever go back and reread some stuff? Wow, I didn't know that.
I think we know Vicky's birthday or Christmas. One of us has to get her a copy of Hollywood Babylon.
Hollywood Babylon 1 and 2 by Kenneth Aldner.
I never read the second one.
I'll probably buy it now just because I feel like I'm missing out on some good.
The second one has pictures of Jane Mansfield's head on the hood of the car when she got decapitated.
No way, really?
It's probably on Prime. If you watch Mansfield 66, 67, that documentary details her relationship with Anton LaVey up until her death.
Oh, no kidding.
That's a good one to check out if you want to.
I always tell everybody, I always learn something new every time I talk to you boys.
But
Babylon 2's also got the stories about how James Dean liked to be a human ashtray, how he liked people to put cigarettes out on him.
I've heard that one too. That I have read.
That one the first Hollywood Babylon, Clara Bow apparently was gangbanged by the entire UFC football team. Not UFC, UFC.
Actually, come to find out that actually wasn't Clara Bow though. That who it was in reality.
Who was it?
Joan Crawford.
What happened?
Really?
Yeah, that's back when she was making. That's back when she was making her porn films.
Oh, that's right. We did know about that one. But but that's technically not.
It came out like after she died that it basically that happened when she went.
But they haven't really proven that was Joan Crawford's pornos though, but everybody knew she was making.
Those stag films are. I mean, they're called stag films in the day, but those porn films are alive today. You can find them.
Oh, really? These guys are giving me all kinds of nasty shit to start getting on the dark web to look for. I'm going to be perverted all weekend now.
We're saying stag films. Basically, it's just Joan Crawford dancing with no clothes on, really.
It really wasn't like any hot and heavy bullshit.
No.
Because they made stupid films back then.
She's not riding anyone to stardom or anything.
Oh, okay.
Not on camera.
No, she's just because most of those stag films are just dancing around with no clothes on, really.
It's not like that crazy movie. What was that crazy?
I mean, today it's very tame. Back then, it probably was very scandalous. But today we'd be like, that's like watching a Spanish drama on Netflix. So David, what are your thoughts of Scarface in 1932?
Right. I'll try to speak as much as I can because I've got a little bit of sore throat. So
just take your time, man.
Okay, so it was quite interesting. 1 second. It was quite interesting. It was quite interesting because you could definitely tell that there was a sort of political agenda in the movie. So there was a bit of extreme representation of the gangsters. That makes sense. I quite liked it, not as much as I liked all the movies, but to be like an old movies, I actually quite liked it. It was interesting the fact that it was quite interesting that the main characters looked very much like a psychopath and was very cocky. I think a little bit monodimensional. That makes sense. Like he was fixated on power. I was a bit weird about the love he had for the sister.
That I'm telling you, there's a little ooh going on.
Oh no, there was incest going on. There was ancestral love going on.
I thought so.
It's more toned down in this one than it would be in the remake. The remake was a lot more overt.
Well, on her part, it was overt. Not so much on Al Pacino's part, because I don't think Al Pacino had the hots for his sister like it looked like in the 1932 Scarface. It was a little more overt, I thought, in 1932 as opposed to.
I thought so too. I thought that she was a bit more hot and heavy into her brother than.
Yeah, she was. She was a little slut muffin.
She was slutty. She was very slutty.
I mean, they kind of used like a very young character, very hormonal, very emotional, so it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
She wasn't hormonal. I mean, she was just neat. She's a cat. She'd be purring and rubbing herself up against everything.
Who am I going to choose?
You ever been around cats and heat? That's exactly what it was like. I mean, you know, they'll go up against hers, they'll rub up against. Yes, she was definitely a cat in heat.
But yeah, he himself instead, I think he sounded very much, he looked like very much like a psychopath. No morals whatsoever, just chaos, destruction, power. He looked very much like a dictator sort of thing. All I want is power, control, and everything. And he was very cocky, even when he was like taking the wife of the boss and everything, like too cocky compared even to the other movies. Because I watched
comical though too. Didn't you think he was kind of comical in a way?
Yeah, he was. He was a bit. He was so in control, so overconfident, and I think he came across cocky. So he would make jokes and faces. Also, when he was talking to the police at the beginning, when he did that sort of thing, the movement, it was funny. But yeah, I didn't hate the movie because normally I don't like gangster movie, but I actually didn't mind this movie.
I like the nostalgia of the film. That I just love seeing the old nostalgia of the silver screen come alive because it seems so. I don't know. It's classy looking. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. The only thing I don't understand basically is I don't see how this. I mean, what I found interesting about the film is that basically it's based. It kind of like hints around that crime is running politics. If you notice, like even like disclaimers, even though like they're there's these disclaimers against organized crime.
Well,
and
it kind of does, don't you think? I mean,
but the funny thing, but there's like this weird undertone that basically is like beware of the government because the government's behind it.
Oh my
God! There's like this kind of
that's how it
talks. I saw that at the beginning of the movie. I died when I saw that. It's like they did not just say that at the beginning of it. It's like that is so fitting right now.
I kind of watched it twice. So I thought to myself, because I knew, and I did a little bit of research before went into watching this, because this is actually the second time I've seen it in my life. So I went and bought the Blu-ray anyway. So, and the Blu-ray's got a nice little featurette in the beginning of it before an introduction. And then it's like, they put this thing on at the beginning to warn audiences about the violence, and it's not glamorizing violence. And so then I was watching the movie, and it's like, and then you see those things like they just basically said that the gangsters or the mafia own the government. That's pretty much what it's saying. Like what?
Well, it was kind of a propaganda. Don't you think it was kind of a propaganda film a little bit too, to some extent, maybe for the 30s?
Yeah, there was political agenda, definitely.
At least for that one part, where they're slamming the government.
Well, it seemed like it was almost saying that
it was a warning to the government.
That the government officials and people who should be protecting us from this happening are turning a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of got that thing. I guess you have to also remember, though, that the people in power and the big, people and companies and stuff like this, you got to remember that this gangland was actually providing, this is in the middle of Prohibition. So they were providing all the alcohol for all these people who had money you could drink. So I was kind of like, who are the same people in charge of Prohibition, even though the people in charge of Prohibition were the ones drinking themselves. So it's like, don't do as I say, don't do as I do situation. Yeah. But that's also a cause of depression, because what happened when everyone was living live and everyone's on top of their game and basically all morality was thrown out the windows during the 20s. Then when the stock market fell and depression happened, all of a sudden it's like, okay, now God has punished us for our over excess sin. So let's go back to family values and morality. And that's what happened during the 30s and the 40s, basically.
This is where we do our eye roll, but okay.
This is also why he was made to tack on the alternate ending, which I don't know if everybody here saw it.
One where he's supposed to be gets trial and then he has to hang, but they don't show it. I watched it twice, one with, one without.
Yeah, they show. Yeah, the way they don't show the hanging. It's very heavily implied. But I guess that's why you have to. The government's like, wait, hold up, wait, no, we don't do. We actually execute these people. That's what you need to put in this movie. It's bullshit.
Yeah, and to be honest, the original ending is a lot more meaningful. The original ending, because it basically I think because the original ending, what you have is like, you got the sister gonna fight by his side. She picks up a gun. Of course, she dies, and then basically this, which causes the death of him because he's like mourning the loss of his sister. So you kind of get so for me, the original ending, what you have is you got this guy who's like doesn't matter what he does until he gets to the top. At the end, before he dies, there is a humanitarian about him, and I think. For me, the original ending shows that it wasn't when he looks back, he's holding his dead sister and he gets shot, that basically he feels it wasn't all worth it. That's what I got from the original ending. Where the other ending kind of like, well, okay, he's a criminal, got caught. Okay.
Yeah.
Where the original ending, I think, was a bit more poetic and had a bit more gravity to it.
I mean, he gets shot, he crawls into a gutter and dies. And that's when the camera pans up as, people are cheering in the streets and you see the world is yours. That is a far more meaningful ending. Far more. And De Palma kind of recreates it, not exactly, but we'll get to that when we talk about the remake in a few minutes. But yeah, absolutely. I love that original ending. If you have the DVD or Blu-ray, you can watch the alternate. I don't know. Yeah.
You also get the thing with the sister as well, and
it makes it a bit twisted.
Yeah, but I mean the whole thing where she's gonna fight by his side and she dies, and that's pretty much what causes his death actually, because it takes his mind off the ball, doesn't it? Sort of thing.
Yeah, he loses it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He loses his focus. Yeah.
He loses focus, which causes death, sort of thing. So
it kind of makes it look like he's got like mental health issues. So it looks like, oh, he's a villain. But because he's got mental problems.
And every time I see movies like this and around that time where they made Reefer Madness, they all seem like they got a little insanity around the eyes. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I watched Reefer Madness, but I don't know. Maybe it's the makeup that they wear. But it's kind of the same thing. So, but did they make, Joe, are you saying they put that alternative ending in because the government was pissed?
To be honest, the funny thing about it, though, the alternative ending, from what I've read, was only used in certain cities.
Yeah, I read that.
And that was like Chicago, New York, where basically the
mob was.
Yeah, where there was strong, mafia leanings to, and right. But like Atlanta and like other cities where there wasn't that huge gangland problem going on, that the original ending was being shown. So it just seemed to be that tacked-down ending was for like those kind of cities where they thought that they're. So maybe they thought it would make a nice deterrent, like, oh, if you continue being part of the family, you could hang. Okay.
But I mean, what's the difference between hanging or being shot in the streets?
Yeah.
What's the difference? You're dead either way.
But I think what it is that the thing is that. Big Brother is watching you, and therefore, the police will get you. I think it's more of that.
Ergo, you get justifiable violence.
Yeah, that's.
I guess. But the original ending's a lot more poetic and a little bit more. It leaves you with it stays with you long after the film ends, because it's kind of like, oh. What, and because you do think, for me, I thought to myself, was it worth it? To go through all that, and I love the mother. The mother saw right straight through him, so the thing.
Yeah.
In both versions.
Both movies. They didn't stray too far from that in either movie either. They didn't stray too far at all from that.
And I love a film that's basically a really strong documentary on Italian life in 1932. So.
There he's going to start slamming Italians. This is not a good podcast to start slamming Italians.
Right, that's true. Three of us are Italian. Yeah, that was just for you, Vicky.
Yeah, it's always for me. But you know what? He won't do it to y'all. I don't know why.
Vicky's family's in charge of the huge mafia in Watertown, New York, because they own a pizza factory. They own the pizza restaurant.
All them people are dead now. Just saying.
Yeah, because of mafia, because of alternative families. The Capone family. At least the Carpone family took them down.
So a little bit of trivia for the horror people out there. Obviously, Boris Karloff.
Yes,
a year removed from Frankenstein is God. What was his character's name? It was something with a T. I'm trying to remember the character's name.
I just had it here just a few minutes ago.
Not T. It was oh fuck. Well, whatever it was.
Tom Gaffney.
Yeah,
Tom Gaffney.
He's playing an Irishman. An Irishman.
I know. What the hell?
From a rival gang, and he almost walks in on what turns out to be the same Valentine's Day massacre. Because you hear him, he sees a police car come up. He thinks it's going to be the cops rounding everybody up and taking them away. He bolts the other way. The cops tell the guys, line up. Hey, it's Valentine's Day, line up, and then mows them all down with machine guns. We also get that excellent montage of just all the various violent things that are happening as Tony is on his rise to power. The other kind of horror trivia thing is based on actually Paul Muni. Paul Muni was originally the person. Well, first it was Lon Chaney. They wanted Lon Chaney to play Dracula in the 1931 film, but he died. Mm-hmm. Paul Muni was their second choice, and I don't know why, but that never happened. And let's be honest, as much as I like Paul Muni, I don't know if that film would have been better with Paul Muni in it, and I don't know that it would be as fondly remembered today. But it ended up going to Bela Lugosi. But yeah, Paul Muni was in consideration for the 1931 Dracula, and here in this movie, he is playing opposite the Frankenstein from the 1931 movie. And Howard Hawks loved using Karloff. The criminal code, he's absolutely terrifying as the long-term lifer prisoner who everybody's afraid of. He's absolutely phenomenal in that. And Howard Hawks brings him back for this. At this point, he was already famous, though. He'd already played the monster. He was already well on his way to being a horror icon. He was in the Old Dark House. He was about to do he had already done The Mummy. He was about to do The Ghoul and a lot of other stuff. So, little horror trivia to bring us all back around to the classic horror that that everybody loves about us.
I mean, I'm hoping that they'll find the Paul Muni film called Seven Faces, where he plays 7 characters. I hope you never know. Hopefully one day it might show up. So
I was reading last year that there's a big search for a lot of these lost films going on in Australia. And the reason for that is the way the studios operated back then is they would send all these prints out and they'd send them, around the country, then into Europe. Australia and New Zealand were the last 2 places where they sent these prints. Right. And a lot of times they told the theater distributors, who were asking, how do we send them back? They were straight up telling them, don't bother sending them back because it's way too expensive. Just keep them. So there's been people looking in Australia and New Zealand, hoping to find Seven Faces.
Somebody's got them.
Charlie Chan Carries On, all the various Theda Bara films, London After Midnight, all these movies. Hopefully they do pop up somewhere.
They've got to be somewhere. They're in somebody's garage or something.
I mean, a lot of them get the nitrate film was so combustible that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they might no longer exist. That fire at Fox in 1937
it destroyed just about almost their whole library, didn't it?
Almost their whole library. Back then, at the time, the executives that were interviewed about it said, nothing much of value is in there, just some old films. My God,
I know, man. They only knew. If they only knew. It's like, I guess, how could they know?
They never thought there'd ever be a second life for these films once the initial release was made. They certainly didn't.
That's why they use the same music over.
Sometimes, yeah, they use stock music.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Muni was also. I mean, he comes from the Yiddish theater school, and Paul Muni, I guess you could say, is probably one of the original method actors.
Definitely.
He would research and everything like that. And I think it's quite interesting that his last film in 1957, he was nominated for an Academy Award for it. So that's
which film was that?
That's The Last Angry Man.
Really?
Yeah. He was nominated quite a few times though for awards. So
Life of Emile Zola, I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang. He got a lot of Oscar nominations. I think he won for Emile Zola. I got to look that up. But man, he was a phenomenal actor. Absolutely fantastic to watch in anything he's in.
And he's always forgotten about a little bit though. That's what's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is strange because he should be more like Pete. Like I feel like more people know. Obviously, James Cagney, and
he got Best Actor for what does it say? It didn't say winner, but 1937, the story of
Emile Zola.
Yes.
Yeah, that was his Best Actor winner,
and he got nominated 3 other times: Black Fury, The Life of Emily, and The Last Angry Man. Yeah.
I thought he got it. I thought he got nominated for I'm a Fugitive on a Chain Gang.
Yep, that too, and The Valiant.
Okay.
I mean, interestingly enough, that
he won 22 films that made he made 22 films and won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in the 36th film, The Story of Louis Pasteur.
Yeah,
I did not know that. Okay.
And interestingly enough, though, his last film is with Jason Voorhees' mom.
Really?
Betsy Palmer? I've never seen that one. The latest film of his I've seen was the one where Claude Rains is the devil. And Paul Muni's a gangster who dies and goes to hell.
Angel on My Shoulder.
Angel on My Shoulder. That's it. Yeah. Claude Rains is the devil, and he sends him back up to Earth to make up for his crimes.
Claude Rains,
which is a comedy film as well, which Paul Muni was known for. So.
Yeah.
They just
and Archie Mayo, the great gangster film director, Archie Mayo directed that one too. So that I think that was his final film. So that's probably the latest one I've seen of his. I did see a comedy with him called Hi Nelly. It was kind of one of those front page type, fast talking reporter newspaper comedy, kind of like the Front Page or His Girl Friday or stuff like that. I thought he was okay in that. I liked that one. But yeah, you're right. He didn't really do a lot of comedy. He was more of a dramatic actor, and he knew his stuff, man. He was great to watch in anything.
Yeah. So it's a shame that he's kind of been left on the back burner, kind of slight thing, considering that he.
Yeah, people think of Bogart, they think of Cagney, they think of Robinson, but yeah, Paul Muni seems to be also on that second tier, and you're right. I don't understand why that is.
Maybe because of his wife Bella. Maybe they were. I'm not saying that maybe because they were, maybe they weren't as waspy as they could be. Maybe that's why.
Waspy.
So,
well, I mean, that was the thing back then. Edward G. Robinson had to change his name to, something that sounded a little less ethnic. So
yeah.
Robinson just doesn't sound ethnic to me. I'm sorry.
That's not his real name.
That wasn't his real name.
It was okay. What did he change it from? I always thought it was Edward G. Robinson.
No, his original name was
Emmanuel Goldberg. Emmanuel Goldenberg.
Oh, well, that's very ethnic.
Yeah. So yeah, he had to change his name.
I never knew that. That's interesting.
Because he's Romanian, wasn't he? So
yeah.
And you have to be careful with Romanian names back in that day because Romanian gypsies didn't have a very good
plight in life at that time.
Well, not right in life, but let's sit there and say that it was against the law to hire them in America at one point.
And Hitler wasn't too fond of them either.
Well, yeah. So. I guess on that front, let's rate this. Scarface from 1932. How many machine guns do you give this, Vicky?
5+. I loved it. I've never seen it before. I watched it twice, and I've got the 2 different versions I watched, and just this beautiful silver screen material.
And what about yourself, Joe?
Oh, it's 5. It's one of the greatest gangster movies ever made. When you look at Little Caesar and and the Public Enemy in this movie, you could see why the Hays Code people were losing their minds over these movies.
I didn't think it was that bad. Then again, I'm desensitized.
but yeah, we grew up having seen Jason Voorhees shove a pole through two people while they're having sex. So you got to think of the time.
So some of us seen that same scene like a few years before that in an Italian horror film.
Yeah.
Day of Blood. Yeah. Oh, but now you're bringing up Mario Bava, and that's going to make.
Okay. Just for the record, Joe did not mention a Mario Bava movie. It was Keith.
That brought it up.
Yeah, but Joe did text me, said, "Don't forget to mention Mario Bava."
That is true. That part's true. Keith checks in the mail.
So, what about yourself, David? How many machine guns do you give this?
I would give it a 4 out of 5, especially because the whole movie for me is all about the mother. I love the mother, the Italian mother. She was funny.
And I'm going to give this a solid 5. I think this is one of the American greats from the 30s that you can't. It's hard to really turn your mind away from, and probably one that probably should be, if you're going to enjoy our next film, 1983 Scarface, you kind of need to see this really, and because they married the two together.
It is sad that like a lot of people don't even know this one exists. That's like when I bring up that Scarface is a remake, people don't know. And that's really a shame that this movie.
I don't think a lot of people realize the huge catalog of movies that are out there before the age of Lucasfilms and CGI and just the whole night. There was a time when it was story time, back then. A lot of people don't realize it.
This movie just is way, way, way ahead of its time. Just in terms of storytelling, like. You could watch gangster movies made in the years following this, and they don't even touch this. And it's because when you get to De Palma,
Michael Mann,
Martin Scorsese, Coppola, all these people, they had a lot more leniency to work with. Back then in 1932, even before the Hays Code, there were still things that we couldn't see on camera. They also benefit from having all this new technology. Yeah. If Howard Hawks had been around in the 70s or 80s, he would have the movies he would have made. If that had been his heyday, the movies he would have made would have been just as tremendous as Scorsese, as Coppola, as Michael Mann, as Brian De Palma, as Oliver Stone, as all these guys who came up during that time. If you haven't seen this, I am telling you to check it out because it is just such a great movie. And it really pains me that people don't know that the movie we're about to talk about, which is great in its own, is a remake.
Right.
Are you looking for a graphic design that will take you to the next level? Or something that shows confidence within a growing market to help you stand out amongst the crowd? Amazing Designs gives consistent and on-brand designs whether you are looking for something conservative or you want to let your imagination soar. They bring professionalism to a high standard, and they are able to visualize your ideas and give them that extra edge. Working one-on-one with their designers will give you a design that will live up to your expectations and more. Affordable, expert designs for all occasions, whether it's logos, brochures, or whatever you can dream of. Amazing Designs is your to-go place for creativity and hands-on expertise. Try Amazing Designs today. Contact them via email at amazingdesigns505@gmail.com. That's amazingdesigns505@gmail.com, or reach out by phone at country code 1-805-203-0427. We love them so much here at the Literary License Podcast that we use them ourselves.
But I'd rather be different than be the same.
Which brings us to Scarface, which is a 1983 American crime drama film directed by Brian De Palma and written by Oliver Stone. Loosely based on the 1929 novel of the same name and serving as a loose remake of the 1932 film, it tells the story of Cuban refugee Tony Montana, played by Al Pacino, who arrives penniless in Miami during the Mario boat lift and becomes a powerful, extremely homicidal drug lord. The film co-stars Stephen Bauer, who's the only Cuban in this film, Michelle Pfeiffer, Mary Elizabeth Mastroianni, and Robert Lagosha. De Palma dedicated this version of Scarface to the memories of Howard Hawks and Ben Hecht, the writers of the original film. Pacino became interested in the remake of the 1932 version after seeing it, and he and producer Martin Bergman began to develop it. Sidney Lumet, who initially hired to direct the film, but was replaced by De Palma, who hired Stone to write the script. Filming took place from November 1982 to May 1983 in Los Angeles and Miami. The film's soundtrack was composed by George Moroder, and E.T. Daly has a specific song with a person being chainsawed.
Yeah.
A little side note there. Scarface premiered in New York City on December 1st, 1983, and was released on December 9th by Universal Pictures. The film grossed $45 million at a domestic box office and $66 million worldwide. Initial critical reception was negative due to its excessive violence, profanity, and graphic drug usage. Some Cuban expatriates in Miami objected to the film's portrayal of Cubans as criminals and drug traffickers. In the years that followed, critics have reappraised it, and it is now considered one of the greatest gangster films ever made. Screenwriter and director such as Martin Scorsese have praised the film and has been referenced extensively in pop culture, especially in hip-hop music. And if you ever seen Crips, and a lot of these people's homes as well. Anyway, as well as comic books, television programs, and video games. The film has come to be regarded as a cult classic. What we're going to do is cut to the trailer of Scarface from 1983 and be right back.
Okay, so what do you call yourself? Huh? ¿Cómo se llama?
Antonio Montana. And you? What you call yourself?
Where'd you learn to speak the English, Tony?
In a school. And my father, he was from the United States. Yeah, just like you know. He was a Yankee. He used to take me a lot to the movies, you know. I learned. I watched the guys like Humphrey Bogart, James Cagney. They teach me to talk. I like those guys. I always know one day I'm coming here, United States.
1980, Miami. They called it Little Havana, where the American dream had a price tag, and only one man in a million was hungry enough to pay.
This country, you gotta make the money first. Then when you get the money, you get the power. Then when you get the power, then you get the woman.
Scarface. For one brief moment, the world was his.
My chick is with. She like me.
You must be kidding.
What you talking about? That's a Cadillac.
How do you know?
The eyes, Chico. They never lie.
Man, that's the boss's lady, okay?
I am the boss. That guy's soft. I like you, Tony. There is no lying in you. Here's to the land of opportunity. We do business together a long time. I know the street, and I'm making all the right connections.
Remember I told you when you started, the guys who last in this business, the guys who fly straight.
With the right woman, there's no stopping me. I could go right to the top.
The word on the street, Tony, is you're not a small-time punk anymore. Supreme Court says that your privacy can be invaded.
You shoot the house this month?
You're spending a lot of money on this counter surveillance.
We're doing 10 million, 15 million a month. Come on. Now, that's serious money, you know? Your bank boys gotta come down a bit.
Who else can you trust? That's why you pay us what you do. You trust us. You're in good hands with us.
Al Pacino is Scarface. He loved the American dream, with a vengeance. Al Pacino, Scarface.
Hello, welcome back to the Johnson Podcast. We're discussing Scarface from 1983. So, David, what are your thoughts of Scarface from 1983?
Okay, so the premise is that I don't like gangster movies, but I adore this movie, and I was shocked.
I thought you were gonna hate it.
No. I was really.
In the past you said you don't like extreme violence either, and this one's very violent. All right.
And yet, I really, really loved this movie. I really was really impressed. The way the story was told, the way it was filmed, the music, the scenes, everything is perfect. It looks like movies these days should be directed and filmed like this. I was very impressed. I loved the main character. I actually loved him and hated him at the same time. I was cheering from him, then hating on him, feeling sorry for him. I was literally taken away by all this like storm of emotions. I was impressed. In fact, my brothers, when I told them, I'm going to do, the podcast about Scarface, they were like, oh, you're not going to like it. and I actually loved it. I was impressed. My take on the main character is of a guy with mental health issues. It looks like he comes from and like life of traumas, and so he grows into like wanting everything. And then there's it's like a story of the rise and falls of a supervillain sort of thing. So it's very interesting. And then he gets everything, then he gets paranoid, and then he loses everything. So very impressed. I'm really, really impressed. I loved it.
The super villain angle is a very, very perfect one for this, because he, at that point where he is at his height, he does have everything.
Yeah.
The world is his at that point. He
can't handle it.
But he also
gets paranoid.
Jesus Christ. See how much he was snorting?
he also does he also makes the mistake of marrying for looks, because he hates Elvira.
Absolutely, they hate each other.
Her. But she's beautiful. She's gorgeous. He doesn't want her as a human being. He doesn't want her as a partner. He doesn't give a shit about anything about her except you need to look good when you're standing next to me.
Yeah.
He kind of made you think that he loved her, though, to some extent. Like after he kills her, whatever he is, sugar daddy. That he goes and gently says, "Hey, pack your stuff. You're coming with me." So I thought he had some feelings for her.
I think, but I think it has some more to do with like an actor winning an Oscar. She's like the Oscar.
She's a trophy wife.
She's a trophy wife. Like you may, it's a bit like when sports stars who like have these wives who like with them through the poor. Well, like through the poorness, and as they're going through that, and then suddenly they become these great stars, and they like trade in their wife for this trophy blonde wife. So I think they bring them forward.
That's all she is to him. That is literally all.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Yeah. They don't intend to have children. Can you imagine if they had kids? This couple, holy cow!
Well, he wanted them. Because
he did want them, but like she said, would they be alive?
I love kids.
But would he be alive to get him to school? Would he ever be there? I mean, she had legitimate questions. Then again, she was on a steady diet of cognac, cocaine, and cigarettes. So
and Quaaludes. Give her a Quaalude, she'll love me again.
Take a Quaalude, she'll love me again. Yeah.
But we also have to remember that Elvira is the American dream. The whole world sees America as, I wish they all could be California girls.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's like, you made it in America when you can get yourself a California girl, quote unquote sort of thing. And that's what, and that's what you have to remember. That's the American dream. Right. The American dream. I mean, it's kind of funny because being an American living in Europe, and especially in England, people go, oh, everyone in America has big houses. Everyone in America is this and that. And they have this idea of what America is. Yeah. And, and that's after you have to remember, like every TV show and movie that comes out
Dynasty,
of America.
Falcon Crest,
Was
Dallas.
not, well, I mean, let's cut it back down to Melrose Place, and let's cut it back down to Friends, Frasier, you know, and all these other things. And I tell people the real America is Roseanne.
Yeah.
Roseanne is probably real America. That's the majority. Everything else you're seeing is just not real. You know, Cosby Show is not real. I mean, the Waltons and probably Little House on the Prairie probably were, okay, but I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Little House on the Prairie. I mean, probably out there shooting the Indians. You know, when they crossed his land. Really, if that was true. It's like more of a sanitized version of American life in that time period. You know, but yeah, I mean, so the American dream is that what we have here is, you know, what their version of America is this. Everything's bigger, everything's better, everything's like, you know, Coca-Cola clouds and, a Big Mac sun and, you know, and everyone's running around in goofy shoes, you know, by Disney and, you know, and that's what America perpetrates. Right. So when you get people moving to America, you know, whether it's crime reasons or for a better life, this is the version that they see. This is the version they hope they're going to get. And this is what America perpetrates themselves.
I mean, he is the immigrant. America's streets are paved with gold is what, you know, Tony Montana is in a way. And I remember I had, when I was in film school, there was a Chinese student with me in my class. And I remember I helped him out with a film. And he was making this. He was making an Asian gangster film, or in the style of an Asian gangster film, and it was about Asian gangs in New York. It was just a student film he was making.
Right.
And I remember he was asking a lot of the actresses that were available to us. He was picking out only the blondes, and he told me that the way his culture kind of saw it was that the American blonde is the symbol of wealth and power to them.
Right.
I don't know how true that. I mean, he was also, 19, 20 years old at the time. So
now we have the Kardashians.
Now,
where is he from? What country is he from?
I think he was Chinese. I don't remember.
See, Asian countries and Chinese and Japanese and stuff. I remember being in Japan, and I was doing a show called Robert Hammerstein's Cinderella. This is back in 1987. So I was there for 6 months living in Japan, and I have to sit there and say that all the blonde people that we had with us, the Japanese are following us everywhere. And you know, if Christina turned around and looked at them,
you're not the first person that said this. I've had other people tell me that when they lived in Japan. Yeah.
And it's probably not so much now because of globalization. Right. And now that now the world's opened up to, Netflix has opened up, programming from all around the world now. And no matter what country you go to, you're opened up to a lot more what's going on around in the world than back then.
Right.
But yeah, it was kind of like that. And it's like, and if they heard you had an American accent, they were just like being enthralled by you. And it's like, they wanted to touch you and everything like that, which in Japan for me was a bit weird considering that, let's say, 40 years prior to that, we actually nuked them. But so it's kind of like, so I found it a bit weird that they were so in awe by American culture.
Well, because we rebuilt the whole country after we nuked them. That's why.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean, it's kind of like, but they're still very, very much enthralled. So much enthralled that basically Disneyland Tokyo is a huge success. So
now it's no longer the blonde. Now it's the big titty goth girl.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's this American dream is like to make it. But another thing is that in America, that's what we perpetrate, that any kid can be president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be whatever you want to be. You can have the American dream. You can, the reality of course, is that, we were brought up in that system. That's what we're brought up thinking. When we become adults, we see the reality. So but same thing, but we don't have the class system really. I mean, we do have it, but it's kind of a
they're trying. It ain't getting there though. They're trying.
but if you do work really, really hard, you can accomplish. It's not going to be easy though.
That's the key word. Work at it. Yeah. You're not going to get handed to you. That's for
sure. But I sit there and say that if Tony Montana wanted to have the American dream, he's not going to get it starting out as a dishwasher, really, unless he has to go through the theme. Because I mean, maybe his children, second or third generation, they can make it up. But just coming off the boat, you're not.
How old do you think his character? Do you think his character's supposed to be latter 20s, mid 30s, or older?
I'd say mid 30s, probably.
I say mid 30s.
Because it's not like he can go to college and start all over again. He's almost going to have to do what he did to survive.
Well, he was in the prison service anyways. I mean, he was prisoner, wasn't he?
Right. So, and he used to work for Castro. Well, I guess they were forced to be soldiers for Castro.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, what we don't know is that basically we have the story that they're perpetrating to the officials.
Right. That was great.
But we don't know if the story, what they're saying, is true or not.
Right.
Because interesting thing about Castro at this time, when this whole thing was going on in the 80s, if you look at the more of the backstory that happened, is that America at that point was
Jimmy Carter welcomed the Marielito boat lift people. He's the one that told them to come over. The problem with that was when they did that, they emptied their prisons into Miami.
What happened with that is actually a little bit further. At that moment, America had a problem with Cuba because of Kennedy anyway. That created a huge problem. So basically, America could not.
Cold War with communism.
Well, it's basically what happened was America needed a villain, and Russia wasn't proving to be a great villain at the time. So in the 60s they turned back to Cuba.
I don't remember them doing that to them though, because I did a whole term paper, a whole thesis paper on the Mario.
Well, it has to do with the.
I don't remember them being treated badly, but I mean, a lot of people were happy. Well,
but it has to do with the Bay of Pigs and all that other stuff.
The Bay of Pigs was a big, that was a problem.
And so then what happened in the Vietnam War happened, and after the Vietnam War, America didn't have a villain, so we kind of turned to Russia for a little while.
Castro was a villain.
But at the same time, America was going on this campaign about how Castro wasn't treating his prisoners humanely enough.
Yes.
So basically, when Carter came up with the system here, Castro said, "Fuck you. If you think you can do a better job with my criminals, you deal with them." And he emptied his prisons and sent them over. He goes, "Fine, you deal with them," because obviously you don't like the way I'm dealing with it. So it's kind of a big FU to the U.S., which, to be honest, the U.S. kind of deserved it. Because maybe you shouldn't be criticizing how other people are running their country unless you're handling your own people the right way, maybe. But so it was kind of like that as well. And then there was the Jimmy Carter thing was a perfect opportunity to do that. But it was Castro basically saying, "No, listen, you're upset with the way I'm dealing with my criminals, then you deal with them."
Yeah.
So.
Well, we do have a problem with that because criminals are treated better than the victims now. So we've got to
nowadays, but so he emptied out his prisons, and then it started off. It did start off a crime wave at that time, and
that's when cocaine was booming. Though, if anybody lived through the '80s like we did, everybody knew where to get some, and if you didn't, you knew somebody who knew somebody where to get some.
But the problem basically is that cocaine, as far as big business and as far as politicians are concerned, they're the ones that were doing more of it than anyone else was.
Exactly. They were the sturdies, the mobsters.
It wasn't like the poor little street urchins. I mean, we were all smoking marijuana. I mean, because we didn't really afford cocaine at that yet, until we started going to nightclubs, and then maybe we'd have it.
It wasn't that expensive. Wasn't. It was like cheap. There was so much of it. It was just all over the place.
Well, the only problem is with it. Yeah, the only problem is that any cocaine that you're getting, depending on how close to Miami you were, the closer to Miami, the purer it was. The further away, the more it was cut with. So it's like, hey. So
I love that.
If you're taking cocaine in Watertown, chances are you're probably just taking baby laxatives.
Never buy your coke in Watertown. They used to cut that shit with baby laxative.
Yeah, baby laxative, and
dual line. Excuse me.
and sweet and low as well.
Yeah.
Sweet and low and baby laxatives.
And baking soda. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like 3 at this time, so I can't comment on it. I was born in 81, so the mid 80s. I was 3 or 4 years old. I have no idea what the fuck was going on.
You're probably better off for it too.
What I do kind of find weird is that with this 1983 Scarface is that they say how so many gangster rap and stuff like this basically made this like I think they love this film, and for me because I don't really see this as a glamorization of this lifestyle. I feel like it's the pitfalls of this lifestyle.
Did you guys only get the first VHS tape where it cuts off and then you got to switch the second tape? You never got the second tape, so you never saw the massive fall. Because
seriously, it's really, the only one who's smart was Michelle Pfeiffer. She's the only one that lives in this film, basically. Everything he touches dies.
If she didn't leave, she probably would have been a part of the body count.
And my favorite scene in the whole movie was the bathtub scene, where the only time they named Scarface ever comes out.
Pelican, come on, Pelican.
No, come on, pelicans. Yeah, they were fucking flamingos for one. They were not pelicans. Those were flamingos. Okay. But Hector, the Colombian gangster, the one who's threatening, they put Tony in the bathtub and they were going to do him.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about the other bathtub scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not that bathroom scene, but it refers to Tony as Cara Cicatriz. And that's Scarface in Spanish. That's the only time they used it. And it was based on a real incident. If you research the movie, Stone embedded himself with a Miami law enforcement and based the infamous chainsaw sequence on a gangland story here from Miami-Dade. But none of this film was actually shot in Miami. Most of it was in Santa Barbara, New York, Los Angeles. And all that cocaine that Al Pacino was doing led to a lot of nasal passage problems. Apparently, I guess he was snorting. What was he snorting in actuality?
Baby laxative, I think.
No, it wasn't baby laxative.
I think it was.
No, I got it right here. It says he was powdered milk. He was snorting. Powdered milk.
I mean, it would have been weird if it was a real deal.
Oh my God! But I never thought powdered milk looked like cocaine. But you just see him, especially towards the end when he sticks his head in that pile of cocaine. He's so wired he can't even die. I mean, he's just going. He's just sitting there, just electrocuting himself. Like, fucking, it was excessive. It was the '80s. The excessiveness of the '80s was real. I mean, it was an excessive decade.
But while you're talking about that bathtub scene early on in the movie where his friend gets chainsawed, that scene, the scene where they kill Revenga, they are so Brian De Palma. Like if
they are,
that's whenever you watch any Brian De Palma movie, when he gets to those sequences like that, he has a way of putting you in the middle of what's going on, because he takes his time to show you exactly where everything. He's looking out to where Stephen Bauer is in the car. You're seeing where the woman is on the bed. He does it in every single movie.
When they're under the bridge, that was very well.
That was another one. That was another scene. De Palma has a way of he telegraphs everything to the point where something's going to happen, because he is showing you the position of everything involved in the scene.
Yeah, but I think we do have. I think we do have to mention, though, he does steal all that from Hitchcock.
He does. He absolutely does.
Yeah, still, I love De Palma for it, though. I mean, I love I love it because of that. That's what makes Scarface for me, is when he does do that.
That Oliver Stone moved to Paris to write this because he wanted to get away from cocaine so badly. He wanted to write it sober, so he went to fucking Europe to get away from the cocaine, and he did. And he said he wrote this absolutely fucking sober. Is his exact words, I think.
That might be the only thing he's ever done sober.
Well, funnily enough, I mean, this was the start of Oliver Stone's excess movies anyway. Wall Street came after this, and that was all about the American
I think they
excess,
said there was like 270 F-bombs in this movie or some shit like that. It's like, oh, wait, here it is. Scarface features 207 uses of the F word, which works out to be 1.21 F-bombs per minute. And
I was going to say the movie's 170 minutes long.
In 2014, Martin Scorsese more than doubled that with his record-setting 506 F-bombs thrown into The Wolf of Wall Street. I did not know that. I didn't count the F-bombs, but every other word is fuck, fuck, fuck. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going into that world, yeah. Of course. I've probably broken the record for F-bombs on this podcast a couple times.
Yeah, me too. We're both neck and neck at that point. Just part of my charm now.
I say it at work in front of patients all the time.
I believe you.
I do, actually.
I actually consider fuck to be the greatest American word. It's a valid adjective, and now
it's diverse.
Yeah.
It goes with everything.
David's heard me at work use it all the time, haven't you, David?
Oh gosh. No comment.
Yeah, this is after this I decided to watch Carlito's Way.
I need to rewatch that. That's
a good pairing for this movie, because the next day before work I was like, you know what? I got to go to work. I'm gonna throw in Carlito's Way just because we're gonna, and it's a good, like I said, Criminal Code and the original Scarface are good pairing. This and Carlito's Way are a very good pairing.
I watched Carlito's Way only because we interviewed one of the actors in it from Dark Shadows. Oh gosh, he played Buzz. Keith, help me remember his name. He played.
Yeah, I can't remember now, but
he used to hang out with Carolyn in Dark Shadows. Remember?
Who was he in Carlito's Way?
Oh God, it's gonna drive me nuts. I gotta look it up now. Me and Tom interviewed him. He was in Carlito's Way.
Yeah, he was in Carlito's Way, and he's good friends with Al Pacino, but he was in Dark Shadows.
We got the
remake of Dark Shadows. I'm assuming.
No, the original.
No, the old Dark. He started off as Dark
Shadows. Somebody from the original Dark Shadows is in Carlito's Way.
His character in Dark Shadows was Buzz, and I don't know why I'm having a blind moment on this right now.
Yeah. I mean, I saw Scarface when it came out the movie theaters. I went to actually the movie theaters when it came out originally. And I remember I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I went to go see it. I just started college. I was in my first year of uni, and I just kind of remembered just watching it, going, "This is interesting," because I was quite used to at that time I was doing a lot of '80s horror films and stuff like that. So.
There's a Diamond Room Man. I don't know who. Yeah, it just listed as Diamond Room Man in Carlito's Way. So he's probably just one of the gangsters that's floating around.
Yeah,
Michael Hadge.
Yeah, I looked him up, Michael Hadge, and he's also in The Shadow. I'm seeing it here, but I'm like, yeah.
But he also produced Looking for Richard, the Al Pacino documentary.
Okay, so he was really close with Pacino then. All right.
Yeah.
He had some great stories. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie, I like the violence in it, because I mean, when you're remaking a movie that was known for being so over the top violent for its time in 1932, and now you're remaking that movie in 1983, you have to. This is, the slasher movies have begun. Violent gangster movies from Italy had started coming over here, and those movies, like when you look at the Polizio
He had all the Gialli films too.
Yeah. When you look at the Umberto Lenzi gangster films and the ones made by Sergio Martino and those people, those movies are hyper violent. So you have to kind of, raise the bar again. De Palma does that fantastically here. And story wise, you go ahead.
Interestingly enough, though, when Manny's at the dance, Manny at the Babylon Club, his dance partner is Lana Clarkson. The one who Phil Spector shot in the face.
Really? No shit. I didn't know that. Yeah. Did you just figure that out, or is that a tidbit you found?
That's a tidbit that I found. So the woman that Phil Spector killed is the woman that's dancing with Manny at the Babylon Club.
No kidding. funny. Boy, that poor guy, he just wanted to go in there and just get his job done that night. He didn't know he was going to get shot doing his performance because a bunch of jacked up Cubans decided to start killing each other.
You know what I found quite interesting though, I don't know, but you remember did you notice like the immigration officers, because they don't show their face, but they're questioning Tony Montana? Did you recognize their voices?
No.
It's Charles Durning and Dennis Franz.
Is it really?
So awesome. If you go back, you can hear Charles Durning's voice, and you can hear Dennis Franz's voice. But I don't understand because they did all the voiceover dubbing for them. So I'm not sure why because of a favor to De Palma, because De Palma uses them all the time. Because they're Blowout and Obsession and so on and so forth. But I kind of wonder why he didn't use them.
Yeah, this is after Blowout, so yeah, why didn't he just use Dennis?
De Palma didn't want to audition Michelle Pfeiffer. He didn't want her though. He was going for Glenn Close or Gina Davis, Carrie Fisher, Kelly McGillis, Sharon Stone, or Sigourney Weaver. But Bregman pushed for Pfeiffer to audition, and she got the part.
That was the right choice.
Obviously.
I mean, yeah. Sharon Stone would have been fine.
She would have been more like the original in the 1932, I think, because Sharon Stone has that quality of. Well, Michelle Pfeiffer did a really good job of not showing emotion either, because she didn't really give a shit either one way or the other movie for the most part.
No.
Well, the interesting thing, the woman, the Cuban woman that's on the bed, who wasn't Cuban, but anyway,
the mean one with the machine gun, you mean?
Yeah, she after she did this movie, after she filmed her scenes, 5 months later, she came up as missing person, hasn't been found since.
Are you kidding?
No.
Was she an actress or was she?
She was actually a teen model.
She wasn't a teen in this movie.
Exactly, that's what I thought.
she was 18 when she made that movie. When she was in.
She's had a hard life by this point.
Yeah, but she ended up missing.
Yeah. That's what I said. She looked like 40. I thought she was like a 40-year-old woman, maybe.
To be honest, I thought that you were her mother, Vicky. But that's fine.
Go fuck off, dickhead.
No, to be honest, I thought she was older as well. And then when I was like looking up, like who is she? Because I thought that maybe because she had one of those faces that I'm sure she would obviously showed up in television later on or something else.
She does look like I've seen her somewhere before.
It's like Rosario from Will and Grace, the housekeeper. I mean, she appears in like you see all these 60s and 70s things that she's in all the time, and but you only know her as Rosario. But when you see the younger stuff, that she was like famous back in the day. She's like very character actress and everything. So I thought she was going to be one of those, but yeah, no, she came up missing, sort of thing.
And he named Tony Montana after Joe Montana because he liked him. It was his favorite team, his favorite quarterback.
Mm-hmm. I find it interesting that they say this is a loose remake of the original, because I don't think it's a loose remake of the original.
I thought it was pretty tight with the script still. It was elaborate and a little more excessive, but it was a little bit longer. Script. I still think there was a lot of incest, not a lot, but there was some incestuous something going on with the sister and the brother thing with Gina and Tony.
Yeah, I found Gina more in love with Tony more in love with Gina than it being reciprocated in this one.
This was,
I think what Brian De Palma did in this one was made Gina the good. She was the virgin, the pure virgin, the pure one. Who hasn't yet been touched by the underbelly that Tony Montana is bringing in
the crime and everything, which eventually does destroy everybody he cares about. Well, Mama lived, but Mama loses both of her children.
Mom was smart enough to be like, no, I want no part of you.
Well, yeah, and the sister. Well, you mean someone hands me? If my big brother started handing me thousands of dollars every week, it's like, fuck yeah, It's like,
but the thing is, though, at the same time, why that's happening is if someone's throwing you money, I'm sorry, you're still not getting it for free, though, are you?
No,
because as soon as she starts accepting the money and stuff like this, her life is no longer hers. It now belongs to the brother.
Well, I thought it was funny though. She's snorting coke in the bathroom with that guy. And she goes, he treats me really good. He's a nice man. He goes, he takes you to the toilet to make out. Nice guy,
On the one hand, you could see his point on that, but on the other hand, any guy that's that protective of his sister, there's some huge red flags, because if his immediate thing when somebody's talking to his sister is this guy's trying to use and abuse her, that's because that's what's on his mind.
Right.
I mean, but then again, if somebody were to take my sister into the stall of a public bathroom to make out with her, yes, that would be a red flag too.
Well, I mean, her tits are on show at the same time as well.
Yeah.
So she obviously, and she's doing cocaine in the toilet. So it's obviously she's not as, and that's kind of weird. Well, I mean, that's what's kind of weird because that's what's kind of weird that it doesn't, and I think this is where De Palma kind of messed up. If they had her a bit more worldly, like in the original, I think it'd make a little bit more sense for him trying to control her. But the thing is, because she starts off as innocent, and by the time we don't see her again until she shows up in the nightclub. By that time, I mean, she's loose, fancy free, kind of like, got the disco, got her arms up, got her tits out, going to the snorting coke in the men's bathroom, and
I don't remember discos in the 80s though. I remember discos in the movies.
Disco never went away. I mean, by the 80s they were burning the records, but disco was still going on.
I mean, this is also
dance clubs, I guess. Maybe.
Well, I mean, what is the time frame?
Gloria Estefan conga song was right around the corner from about this time.
That's true.
The movie
Madonna, Holiday, Burning Up, Borderline, Lucky Star, all that stuff was out at the time.
That's dance music, though. I think disco was just a little different for some reason. I don't know.
What's the time frame?
No, I mean, the discos were the same. It's just that the music changed. I mean, I think what kind of gave this more of its disco shine, though, is I think it's Giorgio Moroder, really. Giorgio Moroder's music kind of dates it back to Donna Summer's hot stuff and all the Giorgio Moroder.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Because that happens again in Against All Odds, the movie. The same kind of music.
Giorgio Moroder again.
Yeah.
What is the time lapse here? Because it starts, and obviously they're making a point. It's
the Margarito boat lift started in 1980.
It's 1980. Jimmy Carter's picture is on the wall in the interrogation room. Carter obviously lost the 1980 election, but how much ground does this movie cover time-wise? Obviously, it must end in the
I'm thinking 5 years.
No, I'm saying 3 years. You got to say 3 years because unless we're going into the future.
We're not, but I mean, the boat lift people started 79 and 80. Okay, Reagan takes over what, 1980?
81.
81?
January of 81.
Okay, because the election was in 1980, so Carter.
But the film was being made in 1982, and it was released in 1983.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess we're assuming that.
I was going back to the Cuban stuff. He wanted a time frame when this all started initially happening.
So I'm saying that Tony Montana basically went up the scale within 2 to 3 years, and his life ended within this 3 year span that we see him in the movie.
Yeah, it's got to be the early 80s. So yes, a lot of stuff, like it's the early 80s. So a lot of stuff from the 70s is still going to be.
Yeah, not so much. It's really disco, really like the disco ball, the mirror ball, and things like that. Really disappeared quickly after 1980, and then you had dance clubs.
Yeah, dance clubs and stuff like that. But I also think this is Miami, so maybe I don't know. I mean,
there's
to be honest,
a lot of salsa music, and I mean, those people they love their music, and I think they're brilliant, dancers. So,
I think we also got. I mean, we got to remember 2 years prior to this, we do have Giorgio Moroder coming off of "Call Me" with Blondie for American Gigolo.
That's true.
He did that soundtrack, wasn't he, at that time? So I think that's probably why. And Giorgio Moroder kind of gives this glossy. I mean, if you look at every film he's done, there's this glossiness to every film that he's soundtracked. American Gigolo is very glossy looking.
Yeah.
It's dirty film, but it's a very glossy looking dirty film.
Seen that in a long
Scarface is very glossy, but it's a dirty film. It's a glossy, dirty film.
I'm surprised we haven't covered that one yet. That's
American Gigolo just got remade as a series.
Yeah, I watched some of it.
any good?
I watched the first season, and it's really hard to see Richard Gere not part of that role. So it's after he gets out of prison.
Okay.
So and you're kind of like getting back into.
So this isn't a remake then. Is this supposed to be a sequel?
After the
sequel, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he goes to prison and gets out. So you don't really have Richard Gere. I mean, the guy has a good body on him, I suppose, for someone who's been in prison for 30 some odd years.
They work out, they read, they get educated.
Yeah, but I mean, the only thing different is that you're not going to see Richard Gere Schlong coming out, because last time we saw that was in American Officer and a Gentleman. Before that, we see it in every single movie.
Yeah.
Before he became legit. Before he got his Oscar nomination. Before he became legit.
Yeah.
So there's no Richard Gere tallywhacker, flopping around on the screen. So. But I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I guess it depends. I don't really like American Gigolo that much. I know for me, it was personally for me. I think Richard Gere's fine, but it's kind of like he makes a lot of stupid choices, and he kind of deserves what he kind of gets because he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, and it's kind of a movie that's more. I guess it's more about the subject matter is more interesting as a subject matter than this is watching it sort of thing.
As far as characters making stupid decisions, I feel like we could say that about a lot of the movies we watch.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard to watch a film about American Gigolo who sells his sex services to women and doesn't really have sex with anyone. You're kind of just watching this film that's just like, it's a bit like, let's do a film about porn, and what we'll do is basically but we'll never show them going into a shoot. We'll watch them going into work, or watch them leaving work, but we won't find out what it is. But we're going to do a film about porn. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It's kind of like, okay.
Very conceptual.
Yeah, let's do a film about family, but we'll never see the parents coming home ever. Okay.
Or have a bathroom in the Brady family. Yeah.
Precisely.
No toilet. Yeah. No toilet.
Well, that's because they don't have any sexual parts in the Brady household. Yeah.
The Brady's
they're all sewn up like G.I. Joes and Barbies.
I know. That was the first thing. Well, everybody used to have G.I. Joe dating Barbie. So yeah.
Well, that's why Alice looks so bloated all the time. She couldn't go. So I think that with George M. Roeder's soundtrack, I think it does as I said before, it does kind of give the film this kind of glossy look to a dirty lifestyle kind of thing. And I think that's.
Well, this was a dirty lifestyle. I mean, it was a dirty business. God.
Another thing I find really weird, even when I saw the film originally and then rewatching it again, I didn't think that. I thought everything that he decorated, like all this new money and all this, all this powerful money and all that, didn't buy them any taste, did it? It's all really everything's really tacky. It's like the furniture's tacky. Even the wallpaper, like Frank Lagosia's wallpaper has got, that wallpaper.
Oh my God, that fucking wallpaper.
The basically a sunset or something. And the last time I saw that sunset was when Fred and Rosemary West were taking all those girls into their basement and killing them. They had the same sunset wallpaper in their basement. So it's like, okay, and like even the bathtub is like, he's like they're laying in this bathtub.
That's a bathtub, man. Now that's my idea of a bathtub.
But I look at it like, why would you want that?
I would want that big. But that's what she says though. Nothing exceeds like excess, and she was right. Yeah. That nailed the whole movie. That one statement. Do you think this movie could be made today? Because, you got, what was it? The guy, was it Salsa? Talking to Tony, goes, I told you, don't fuck me, you little monkey. And also just
well, I think he probably could remake this, but you probably, to be honest, you'd have to use,
you would be talking monkey.
What I'm saying is that first of all, your actors, all your actors would have to be Cuban actors.
Yeah.
And everyone have to play the right nationality. But another thing is that I think it would have a grittier look to it if you remade it. It's going to look darker and grittier. It's not going to look like this. It's going to be.
I wonder if there's somebody out there that wants to. I'm sure
it's going to be. But well, we kind of still do this though. Breaking Bad is the story,
right?
Yeah.
You know, if you look at what's the other? If you look at The Shield is pretty much the story as well. I mean,
haven't seen any of that.
But or the other one, what's the other crime one that had the drug lords in it and stuff like this that won a lot of awards? Was on HBO.
Oh, Sopranos.
The Wire. The Sopranos, another one. It's like, so if you look at it, this is basically the Scarface story being retold, but retold in the 90s and 90s and the millennial and sort of thing. But it's going to have a darker. It's not going to look so glossy.
Well, it's also going to look like shit. We forgot how to light movies now. We don't remember how to light movies anymore. But
it probably had more of a documentary type style to it anyway. That's what we're kind of doing now with film sort of thing. We kind of got this kind of.
It's cheaper. We started doing digital video and it's cheaper and it doesn't look as good, but
no, it doesn't.
It costs the studio less. There was talk a couple of years ago of somebody, because everybody was up in arms on Facebook going, I can't believe they're going to remake Scarface. I'm like, the version you're talking about is a remake, you moron. But like 5 years ago, there were people up in arms because somebody was going to do Scarface again. And I'm like, okay.
Go ahead. We'll see what you got.
I mean, you're not going to top Howard Hawks, and you're not going to top Brian De Palma. So what's the point? You're not going to do it any better.
Put your spin, some up and coming,
unless
spin on it,
Well, unless they get someone like David Fincher or someone like that to do something with it, but I don't think David Fincher would touch it.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, I don't think Fincher would do it though.
That would be an enormous undertaking, and you'd be under a lot of pressure to really produce. So.
To be honest, I think if Scarface is going to be remade anyway, we probably would deal with a probably African American story.
Possibly, yeah, I could see where that. I could see that.
I could see that. You go from Italian to Cuban, and now the new version would be African American.
I could see that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the connective tissue could be. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I imagine that the story would probably take place in like LA or something like that.
But I don't know about you guys. I love Al Pacino. Always been one of my favorite actors. But I just didn't see him as Cuban in this movie. He goes,
I didn't see anyone as Cuban. I didn't see anyone as even Stephen Bauer, who's Cuban. I didn't see him as Cuban in this movie.
When you're sitting here with an Hispanic watching this, it takes on a whole new life, and it's funny because they point shit out, and it's just like, oh my god.
Could have kept your mouth shut. They would have thought you was a horse.
Yeah, yeah. But he goes, Pacino, he's no Mexican. He goes, he's not supposed to be. He's Cuban. He goes, he ain't no Cuban either.
Yeah, I mean, it's like. I mean, to be honest, this is, I said before, nobody is the right nationality in this film anyway.
It's even worse in Carlito's Way. When you see Al Pacino in Carlito's Way, he's completely white. Like, there's nothing. He just sounds like just a fast-talking kid from Brooklyn. There's nothing about Al Pacino.
Well, what about Sean Penn's afro?
God.
He's playing a Jewish person. It's like, okay.
How did they even come to cast him in that role? I mean, I'm not even trying to be mean.
I mean, if you're asking me anything about Sean Penn, I don't see the greatnthe there. I've always kind of.
He made one movie that I liked him in, and I think
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I loved him in that, but he made a movie with oh my god, what's his name?
At Close Range.
Yeah.
With Christopher Walken.
That movie, I love that movie. Don't ask me why.
I don't know. I just find that once you sleep with Madonna, you kind of lose all street cred. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But
she used to be okay.
No, I'm sorry.
I used to love the Material Girl. She's a bit foobar now.
I'm not talking about her. I'm just talking about people who slept with her tend to lose their career afterwards. Sean Penn kind of lost his street cred. Warren Beatty kind of lost it after Dick Tracy.
Or like taking a picture with the Foo Fighters, yeah.
or Guy Ritchie. One of our most promising British directors marries her and is like, oh, what has he done since Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey?
Yeah, true. Maybe she's a browbeating.
But Warren Beatty,
her vagina is cursed. Anyone who enters it comes out cursed.
It's got teeth. It's got teeth.
But Warren Beatty, though, if we want like this, because he's relevant right now, because I love that this man is so petty. I love how petty he is
in real life.
He got the rights to Dick Tracy in 1990. The movie did really well financially. Yeah. So I never understood why.
I kind of liked it. He
wanted to make a sequel. He wanted to make a sequel, but it never got made. But because he owned the rights to it and he doesn't want to give them up, every 20 years, he makes some weird TCM special where just so he could say, I made a sequel to this. And there's no budget, there's nothing to it, just so he could hold on the rights. And he did it again last week. The fucking property, Dick Tracy, goes into public domain in 3-4 years. Right. So there's no point in doing this except I'm going to hold on to it just to spite everybody.
So if he does this, he gets to hold on to the rights and it doesn't go public domain.
Yeah.
That's the reason why all those bad Hellraiser sequels.
Yeah.
No, really?
Yeah.
That's the reason. That's the reason.
They get what they do with the Hellraiser sequels is basically they get a script for something else.
Right.
We need to do Hellraiser because we're going to lose the rights. So what they do is they turn it into a Hellraiser sequel. So that's why when you watch these Hellraiser sequels, they don't mean anything because they just change them to a Hellraiser, and it has nothing to do with Hellraiser.
So like Hellraiser 2, right after the immediate...
No,
not 2. No, we're talking about after the third one.
Okay, okay.
We're all actually...
Is that sort of like the same with Phantasm then?
No,
Phantasm's owned by the guy anyway.
It's still the same person.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
But he just ended up with lesser budgets. That's all.
Okay. Well,
Roger Corman infamously in 1994, because he didn't want to lose the rights to the Fantastic Four, made a quickie Fantastic Four movie that he had no intention of releasing.
That's all they have to do.
Just so he could say, no, it's still a viable I still am doing something with it. It's basically, I don't want you to play with my toys. Okay. I'm playing with them now. You see, I'm playing with them now. You can't play with them.
I didn't know that. How interesting.
Which might be what they're now saying that might be the reason why the Batgirl movie was never going to be released. They said that maybe the character was owned by Warner, had the copyrights.
Is that what the problem is with it? Because
there's question about that because if you look at Batgirl, there's no real stars in it, is there?
No.
Brendan Fraser would be the only one.
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't know that he was going to make a comeback, did they?
No, that's true.
At that point, he was pretty cheap to hire.
Was that his comeback movie? Was The Whale, right?
That's the big one. Yeah.
It would have been Batgirl if it got released.
Oh, really? Did not know that.
Yeah.
I was wondering where it was.
So there talk that Batgirl could be Warner could have been losing the rights in order to save it. They made this quickie movie that they're never going to release,
which would be a shame.
I'm mildly intrigued.
It would be a real shame if somebody who has access to that file were to accidentally upload it somewhere and accidentally release it. That would be a real shame, guys.
That would never happen.
Hopefully that never happens.
That would never happen. It's never happened.
No. Film piracy is bad. Totally bad and has never saved cinema.
We do not advocate film piracy on this show.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not saying fuck Warner Brothers. Somebody release the file. No. In fact, I'm saying don't do that.
Just do it.
Oh, don't. I have all these films on my cloud. No, I'll make sure I send you the password later for those. Okay.
Oops.
Yeah. Another thing I find a bit boggling about Scarface the movie is that how it became. I mean, I have to blame it for a lot of things. First of all, MTV from between 1990 to 2010 with Cribs.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen so many badly decorated homes of people because of this movie Scarface. It's like Oh, I mean, because all their homes are like replicate like the Scarface interiors. Like if you watch it, red and black.
It was gaudy. It was really gaudy.
Yeah, it's like it really encouraged bad interior design choices for 20,
I never
30 years.
thought of that, but I guess that could. Yeah.
Honestly, I think all that does this movie such a disservice because they so overhype it that it's become a parody of itself almost when you watch it now. And I mean, just the effect on pop culture in general with all the parodies, because I mean, it's been parodied on everything from The Simpsons to Family Guy. You have Homer Simpson with the sugar thing. First you get the sugar, then you get the money, then you get the women.
Well, we even got it in Grand Theft Auto and Vice City.
Oh, Grand Theft Auto!
Oh yes, excellent.
From the Palma movies.
And then we had I remember the DLC Gay Tony.
Oh, the Ballad of Gay Tony. I remember that. No, yeah. If Brian De Palma never made any movies, Grand Theft Auto would not exist because it wouldn't have anywhere to steal ideas from.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah,
I mean, when I was watching Carlito's Way, right at the beginning, when his nephew is driving him to where he's going to make the drug deal at the beginning of the movie, he's driving the kind of car that the Hispanic gangsters in Grand Theft Auto 3 are driving into a neighborhood in Brooklyn that looks suspiciously like that neighborhood. So
but are they killing prostitutes?
It's
that's what I do in Grand Theft Auto. I pick up prostitutes, I pay them, have sex with them, then kill them, get my money back.
The Jack the Ripper method.
Yes, that's what you do in Grand Theft Auto.
That's not.
And you get extra health as well.
Yes,
I just about died.
Yeah, you could go to 125% health.
Yeah,
I bought my son that game. 10 when Justin was alive, I bought him that game when he was like 10. I had no fucking idea about Grand Theft Auto. He just goes, "Mom, I gotta have this game."
No,
there you go. I was a bad mother.
I'm not saying Grand Theft Auto ripped off Brian De Palma movies. I'm just saying that motherfucker better be getting a check. Because everything in these video games straight out of a De Palma movie.
That's funny.
Do you think that but it's kind of funny, I guess what I'm saying about Scarface and pop culture is that I think that Brian De Palma made this film as like a tongue-in-cheek situation about this is, the power and greed and the tackiness behind it all. But it's kind of funny how society has turned it to emulate the tackiness. Like this is wonderfully fun. Like they missed the joke, and that's what sometimes I think this happened. They missed the joke that basically this is not something to admire that this doesn't sell success. This shows tackiness. So watching this, I feel like a person whose family came off the Mayflower. Here I am, generations after generations later, as old money looking at the new money, and that's kind of how I kind of look at Scarface.
Yeah, The Godfather is the old money version, and Scarface is the new money version.
But you gotta admit that is kind of a funny analogy, though. It's just like, what the fuck is this? Yeah.
The thing is another thing that you'll find is weird is that Godfather, through the violence and even through the original Scarface, that there is a loyalty that you have to your family and to the people behind you unless they betray you. The thing about Scarface is that he's not loyal to anyone at all. He's only loyal to himself. Best friend,
who he shoots,
But he expects everybody to be loyal to him, though.
Yeah. Precisely. And if you look at, but the thing is, this tells you what kind of character he is anyway. Because if you look at basically why he's in the prison or the holding cell for, refugees, and he illustrates the killing of the person so he can get his naturalization pick. He's not the one who does the killing. He gets his friend to do the killing for him.
No, he did it.
He stabs the killing?
Guy. Yeah, he stabs him.
Yeah, Tony stabs him.
Oh, does Tony stab him?
He's walking through the door. He runs up. And
okay. Because I remember
they called that place Freedom Town.
But it was Stephen Bauer who brought the idea to him. So maybe that's where you're getting a little.
No, I thought that the guy, but the guy also who did the who's the one who gets butchered in the shower in the bathtub.
Yeah, he's with him too. He's
with him too.
That's Stephen Bauer him and Stephen Bauer are kind of like stalking him, getting him to go through the door.
Okay, that's what I'm getting.
That he can get stabbed.
So basically, it's like, you got the Three Musketeers, but then when you get Al Pacino and he does his first job, he sells out his friend.
Yeah.
He sells out his friend.
Yeah, he lets him get chainsawed. Yeah.
He gets him that chainsaw and he doesn't, and he can tell that he's not upset. He's not even upset by it. He's just staring coldly at the situation. He's not like, oh my,
that
he's
was
not, his eyes are not.
One of the coldest, most brutal things I've ever seen on any film. And I mean, if you didn't really actually see the chainsaw doing its thing, but it kind of gave you something to your imagination.
But I mean, also at that point, what is he going to do? He's chained up like this.
Yeah, he can't really.
No, but what I'm saying though, if you look at his face. And normally what you'll see is it's like when he and the thing is you get the chainsaw going on, you get the camera going out, you got the camera coming back in, you basically then you get a close up of Tony Montoya's eyes or Al Pacino's eyes, and there's not fear in him whatsoever. There is a coldness there.
He's like a shark. He looks like a great white. They're lifeless in their eyes as well.
And that pretty much tells you that, and then that pretty much tells you what kind of character is. And then the only other time, and this is the only problem I have with this with Al Pacino Scarface, is that there's no humanity at all.
None.
Because even when he goes, and I mean, I don't know this is the way it's filmed, but even when he goes to his mother and goes, "Oh look, Mom, I made it," sort of thing. It's like, and she's like, and then, the mom's going, a boy like that to kill your brother. She shouldn't do that. But it's kind of has that kind of feel to it. And the thing is like, it's not like he's gone there to help save his mother or protect his sister. He's there, I'm here to show off. I'm here to show off that I've made it. Ha, ha,
that
ha, ha,
ha.
Fuck you. You said I'd never do it. Blah, blah, blah. 2 fingers up sort of thing. And then he kind of leaves.
Well, they got that macho thing going on. I used to hang out.
Well, but even with his sister's hairdressing business, that he's using that as a tax shelter to put the laundry his money. So it wasn't for her; it's for him.
Yeah,
he needed a business to put the thing. So that's what I think that with this one, he doesn't have any morals outside of himself, really. He's not dedicated or feels for anybody. And even when his sister dies, you don't really get that realization that you do in the original, where you get the realization like, oh, my sister's dead. Because what happens, he dies, he just does a bunch of coke, and then we have basically
he's insane on coke.
Alibaba and the 40 Thieves coming in.
I mean, his senses have to be so numbed down by doing that much cocaine.
But I'm saying that his senses were dumbed down at the very first time we've seen him. Well, he has no feelings. He has no empathy. There's nothing about him.
In the original, though, Tony is at the window, and his sister gets shot. He still has that protective layer because he's up in a window upstairs.
Right. Mm.
So he has a second before he picks up the gun and goes after him because he has like a little bit of a shield. Tony in 1983 doesn't have that. No. These people are in the house already and they are killing, they are shooting at them. I think that guy was already in because that guy came in through the window behind them.
The one that killed him with a shotgun?
No, he shot, was it a machine? No, it was a machine gun, wasn't it?
No, the guy, they're shooting him up, but he's
I'm talking about when the sister gets killed. I'm talking about when the sister gets killed. Because that guy's coming in through the window behind him because she's shooting at him. And that
it came from behind him, the chair, I think. Behind the chair.
But the thing is, though, but even like when he shoots his best friend and he drags his sister back to the house, there is no feeling. There's no feeling that I'm just saying there's no humanity about.
Paul Muni is upset because I didn't know. There's that whole thing. I didn't realize he had married her and made an honest woman of her. I just thought he was just screwing my sister.
Precisely.
So the Paul Muni version, you got
me
on
I'm saying that. So I'm saying that with this Scarface, Tony has no humanity about him whatsoever. And there's not one humanity moment with this Scarface at all. And that's why this film's kind of weird because you kind of watch the film. But you're kind of removed from the film, so you're kind of just watching it play out in front of you. But you're not for me, I'm never emotionally engaged in this film. I kind of watch it like, you know, like I'm protected, like there's this, like I'm like behind a wall sort of thing, and I'm watching it. And I have to sit there and say that that's probably my only downfall with this, Tony, and maybe that's a good thing. But I also find it weird that a lot of people have hailed this movie, you know, as for what it is, for culturally, because at the moment there's not one saving grace about Tony's character whatsoever that I
not
can
in this
find.
version, no. Well, except when he refuses to kill. He refuses to kill the wife and kids. That's the only time.
Well, and that, yeah, but and I have to sit there and say, I know that brings his downfall, and that there's a reason behind that, but that did seem fake. That reasoning behind that, you know what I'm saying? It didn't seem.
Yeah.
That's the only part of the movie.
Fit the character coming up until that point.
Yeah, that's the only part that for me the whole film falls a bit fake on, is when he doesn't want to kill the wife and kids. Because like he was okay about killing everyone else, so why now?
Yeah, but even the most hardcore, you know, criminals, you know, they'll fuck up a pedophile in prison. They just don't like anything to do with kids. So I can see a hardcore criminal not wanting to kill children.
But what I'm saying is, but what I'm saying with Tony, when you're watching Tony all the way through, there's no humanity in Tony whatsoever.
No,
except that one part.
There's no empathy. Well, there's that one part but I'm saying when you're watching the film, it feels kind of out of place. Really, it's like what?
A little bit.
Really?
A little bit. I kind of wish that was.
I understand why it has to
the
happen.
whole movie. That was his downfall, not killing those kids.
Yeah, oddly enough, the one time he shows humanity is what gets him killed.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the turning point. Because after that, it was gloves were off, and everybody's coming to kill him. They didn't waste any time sending an army. So,
well, I guess the passage of time is there either, because that was super fast afterwards. But I mean, honestly, though, go ahead, Keith. Go ahead.
I was just gonna sit there and say, so I guess in this version, I guess for the Tony, and I do like this film a lot. I'm gonna give it but I had to sit there and say I have no feeling or emotion when I watch it. It's like I just kind of watch it, but I don't. Yeah. I mean, I kind of grimace a little bit at some of the violence, like the chainsaw. That's the only time I grimace, like that. But the rest of it, I mean, I quite like, F. Mary Abraham being thrown out of the thingy, but I didn't feel anything for Omar being thrown out of the helicopter. Or even when Tony dies at the end, I don't feel anything for it. I look at it's like watching like a huge, a huge finale, and then walking away going, okay. It's like, well, that was done well, but I wasn't upset that he died.
No,
you do kind of get a little numb towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it's nothing but brutality. It's all
but I feel numb to Tony. I feel numb towards Tony through the whole film. I don't feel anything for him, for me personally. Which I find
he's not a nice person.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wish that. And I do think that if there's some more of a weakness with the mom and sister element to it, and the sister would have been the key for the humanity to come through. And I think this is where Brian De Palma might have slightly missed the mark, because the sister could have been used for Tony's humanity and used for Tony's empathy. Because even when he's slapping around and he's slapping her down the street like a redheaded stepchild, you're just kind of going, well, that's a bit excessive.
Yeah.
So. So I guess what we should do is now rate Scarface from 1983. Starting with you, Joe. How many machine guns do you give Scarface from 1983?
I give this one 4. I like Keith said, you don't really connect with I don't find anything to connect with the character about. It's a great film to show the rise and fall of a gangster.
Right.
The filmmaking is phenomenal. I mean, this is De Palma, maybe not his peak, because I think maybe his peak was maybe Dress to Kill and Blowout.
Right.
So I don't think this is as good as Dress to Kill or Blowout. But it's still a solid movie. It's still De Palma, when he was at, that cycle where he was at his best, which was around this time. I do really like it. I mean, it sticks to the original story, like we were saying earlier.
Right.
Beat for beat, it's still the same story. And like I was saying about the other one doesn't really have any time to breathe because it's 93 minutes and it's just bang, 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 bang. And, plot point, pop. This one takes its time a little more, maybe a little too much. I don't know. I enjoy it for what it is. I don't know if it needed to be 3 hours. We probably could have cut about 20 minutes out of it and still had a fantastic movie, probably a little more of a tight movie. I like that De Palma escalated the violence above what we would see in a gangster film during this time period, much like the 32 version did.
We get all kinds of new guns and all kinds of torture devices to use on people at that point.
Oh, yeah. He also, the other thing about De Palma, and Keith mentioned a lot of the filmmaking style similar to Hitchcock. It's also similar to Dario Argento, where you have him going out and around the house, the camera movement like that. De Palma, and it's one of the reasons why I'm like you guys, I thought maybe the woman on the bed was an older actress who had been in like some other movies.
18, what? Crazy.
Yeah, I know. He's one of those guys that he's kind of like in that Scorsese, Tarantino level of just loving movies.
Yeah.
Where like you can see the influences of everything that he liked up until this point coming out in this movie. Obviously Scarface. Italian gangster movies like the ones Umberto Lenzi made in Italy like a decade before this. You have a little bit of the giallo element in there with some of the Argento-like camera movement. So De Palma he's a student of film, and that's why I gravitate towards his film so much. This one of his better movies, not his best. And I don't think it's as good as the 32 original because the 32 original just has something to it.
It does.
I can't connect to it as well here. And I love Al Pacino in this. I love how over the top he is. I love his flamboyance, everything about it. I'm going to give it, I'm going to go 4.5 because it's still a great movie. I think it is better than four machine guns, maybe 4.5 machine guns. But not 5 like the original.
What about yourself, David?
I actually would give it like a 10 stars out of 5.
I love how he loves this movie. He doesn't like violence or gross stuff, and he loves this movie. Okay,
that's full of violence and gross stuff.
It's full of violence and gross stuff.
But there is something to be said about that. When it's great storytelling. It's going to transcend, things you don't like. Like, there's people who tell me, "Oh, I don't like westerns." Well, have you seen one? You need. If it's a well-made, if it's a well-made western, a well-made gangster film, a well-made whatever. If the storytelling's tight, you're going to like it.
But it's not only that. In a position of what Keith said, I extremely connect to the character. I think that what I see is a person who has lived with trauma. So he's got repressed trauma because he needs safety with power and money, etc. So he gets them, but then he doesn't know what to do because he's still going through trauma. He wants everything like American dreams and everything. So he gets, the tacky bathtub and the paper wall, the showing off to the mother, the trophy wife he doesn't really love. There is like a... Damn my voice, sorry. There's like a sort of complex of inferiority. So it gets that because it doesn't want to feel inferior to other people, to the rest of the American people, etc. And then he gets everything, and then he gets the paranoia of losing everything. For the part of not killing the wife and the kids, it's because he wants kids. So he feels the connection. He doesn't want to kill the kids and the wife. And that's his weak point because he's never going to get them. The wife doesn't love him anymore. So the death.
That is a good point. I never saw that parallel before. Very good.
His death is extremely poetic for me because it's like the rise and fall of a villainous, someone who built everything on based on nothing really stable, based on like a conceptual idea or idealized what's right for him. He's like a sandcastle. So he felt like a god, but he's actually just a mortal. So I love this. It's an amazing concept just to show the all the villainous in the world are actually just people with problems, with mental health problems or traumas, etc. I love that.
All right.
What about yourself, Fix? What are your thoughts?
Oh, this has always been one of my favorite movies. I give it 5 kilos. Absolutely. Love it. It's violent. It's got great acting. It's got that parallel he just drew. I never even thought of that. That was really good. That was really intriguing that you said that. Next time I watch it, I'm going to keep that in mind, that one scene anyway, because that really makes some sense to me now, because I really wasn't getting it. And then you said that, and that gave me something to think about. But I just think since 1980s, it's always been one of my favorite movies. It's always been a movie that in college, we watched that thing like crazy when that came out, and on VHS and stuff back then. But I just love Pacino too in this. Like I said, he doesn't really look Cuban to me, but I can get past that. But I think it's a great movie, great acting. The script is still pretty tight. Kind of, except for, they elaborate a whole lot more in this movie, obviously. But you had to, exceed the mark, I guess, on 1932. But it's like Michelle Pfeiffer says, nothing exceeds like excess. And that's this whole movie is excess, and it's representative of the 80s. An excessive decade, I might add.
Yeah, and every character was also in the 32 original, I realized now when I watched them back to back. Because Michelle Pfeiffer is Poppy. The sister, obviously. Robert Loggia is the original gang boss. So
Robert Loggia is not Cuban either.
No, the Italian American.
No, he's not Cuban. He's supposed to be Colombian.
That's even funnier.
Well, he's not Colombian either.
No,
not in real life.
You gotta watch this movie with an ethnic person of Hispanic background, because it's even funnier when you do. Oh my God, it's hysterical.
Rita Moreno and the people of 2020 onwards are going to be really upset with this movie if they watch it today.
Yeah.
Me, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. Actually, 3.5%.
Wow, 3.5 from Keith. Okay.
Now the reason being is there's a lot I do like about it, but I kind of watch it because I think because Tony Montana is such a stoic character and there's no emotion that goes on with him, right. I find it really, really hard to be totally invested in him. Right. And I kind of watch this film very, very removed from it. For me, it doesn't speak. And for me to like a movie, I have to be very involved in a character and feel about them. And I do think that, I have been quite spoiled of late. So because we're especially nowadays with like television and Netflix and HBO and so on and so forth, that we have these amoralistic characters who you start rooting for and you want them to make it, even though they're incomprehensible and they're horrible people, but you still have some kind of a moralistic center that you want to see them succeed. Where Tony, I kind of watch it from the beginning and just think, okay, boat person, turn the drugs, life goes to shit, and am I supposed to feel bad because why? He kind of deserved everything that happens to him.
I don't think you were supposed to feel bad for him.
The thing is, I find a lack. For me, I find a lack of finding anything that I can remotely relate to. Right. Like if he was soft with his sister, and there's some tender moments with him and his sister. And to be honest, we had 3 hours that we could have developed something on this lines. Where there was some softness to a sister, or some softness that a mother that didn't love him enough, not because of what he's done, but because or some kind of backstory that would kind of flushed him out a little bit more. But you kind of just, for me, just kind of have this character that kind of just thinks that everything he says and does is okay, and that everyone has to pay for his sins.
Right.
And even when he pays for his sins at the end, it's kind of like. And he feels like he's been done wrong. He never takes responsibility for anything, or has that flick moment of like, oh, I could have done something differently, but I'm on this course or anything. And that's what I kind of lack with this. And you kind of do get this with Brian De Palma films anyway, that there is, whether you're watching Obsession and Cliff Robertson's sexual relationship with his daughter, or Blowout, or Dress to Kill, or even Carrie kind of has. But I mean, Carrie's probably Brian De Palma's probably most emotional film for me.
You think?
Because it's like, well, I mean, when you see Carrie going up to get her crown, and you're thinking, oh, please don't, please.
That's true.
Maybe this time she'll turn around and this won't happen.
Yeah,
and you're hating for this to happen. And but most of Brian De Palma films anyway you're kind of like slightly removed. Obsession, you're slightly removed. Blowout, you're slightly removed from. Dress to Kill. And I'm a huge
Dress to Kill. I thought they all deserved to die in that movie.
But the thing is, there's what keeps you invested is there's always something likable, because like in Obsession, Genevieve Bourgeois carries that movie because there's something so delicate and that you like about her, even though she's playing this weird game about having sex with her dad and stuff, which is kind of a weird game in itself. Dress to Kill, you have Nancy Allen and Keith Gordon's character, and they keep you invested. You also have
I love Nancy Allen.
And then if you look at Chasing, Raising Cain, you got John Lithgow's character that's always a treat to see. You have Blowout again, Nancy Allen, who's keeping you very invested, and John Travolta's keeping you kind of invested, even though John Travolta moralistic compass is slightly elsewhere, even though he's trying to do good, but he's kind of like throwing people against their will to dangerous territory.
And when he uses Nancy Allen's scream,
right?
Yeah.
In the movie at the end, when he edits it into a movie, it kind of feels dirty. So yeah, Travolta's definitely a little off in that one.
And I have to sit there and say that, and Blowout is kind of the beginning of Brian De Palma's descent into being, for me, he becomes disenfranchised with film.
I could see that. Or now
and
he has to top himself all the time. Now he becomes that grand De Palma set piece all the time.
Well, I mean, I think the last time we get that is what Untouchables. Really, we kind of get that set piece in Untouchables in the train station.
Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes, yeah.
Yeah, he's got that whole sequence in the beginning where the assassination happens.
And Raising Cain with Levita Davidovich's dream sequence with the sundial.
I recently saw Femme Fatale, and I don't remember that kind of set piece in Femme Fatale. And I don't remember one in Black Dahlia either.
But when you hear Brian De Palma in interviews and stuff like this, he is very disenfranchised with society anyway, and the humans and stuff like this, and it does show in this, from this film. So I guess that's the reason why. Though technically, on a technical front, I would give this film 5. Technically as a 5, but as an enjoyability and the acting, I would give it a 4. But for an overall enjoyability, I don't really enjoy this film that much. I give it 3.5 for myself.
It's funny because a friend of mine the other day, I was talking to him while I was watching this, and then I was watching Carlito's Way, and he also hadn't seen Carlito's Way in a while. And I thought he was talking about Carlito's Way initially, where he said, "I've seen it about a dozen times, and I like it less every time." And I'm like, I don't know, I'm watching it now, and it's funny. He goes, "Oh no, I meant Scarface." And I'm like, I've seen the movie like maybe 3 or 4 times. I haven't seen it a dozen times, so maybe it hasn't worn me out like it has other people. But I always thought it was a solid movie, not one of the like really great ones. I don't think it's on. I think it's on that second tier because you have like The Godfather, Goodfellas, and I always felt this was like kind of a second tier. Incidentally, with The Untouchables, which is also kind of a second tier gangster movie to me, because I don't think they're as grand as those, but they still are very good. They're not like. They're not like bottom of the barrel junk,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Brian De Palma fan. I have like every single one of his movies. I mean, I love Casualty of War with Michael J. Fox. I like a lot of his films. There's some I read, but I do find that I tend to like his pre-80s films more than I watch after that.
He definitely peaks in like the late 70s, early 80s. And then after that, Body Double's not as good. I still enjoy it, but it's not as good as.
I still enjoy it, even though I think Craig Watson's totally miscast, and he looks too much like Robert Englund in it. But
the problem with Craig Watson is he really can't carry a movie.
No,
likable enough it seems, and I've never seen a movie with him in it that I hate, but I just cannot I can't see him as a leading man.
No, he's better off in like a second supporting character role.
Yeah,
so
like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, which I think he's great in that, but that's because the weight of the movie isn't on him.
No, it's on the children.
It's on it's on Robert Englund, it's on Heather Langenkamp, it's on the kids. So there's a whole bunch of people before we get to Craig Wasson, and I like the guy enough, but I just don't think he can carry a movie.
Well, this brings us to the end of the Literary License podcast. Our next remake will be DOA from 1949 and DOA from 1988. Interestingly enough, the DOA from 1988 does star Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, which will lead to their marriage. So that's something to look forward to. And of course, next week, our M&M will be M from 1931 by Fritz Lang and Badlands from 1980. No, it's 1970.
75 or 76.
76.
Well, all I know is Jodie Foster just came off the little girl who lives down the lane. So that would be close to
1973.
So we're all fucked. Okay. We're only human, guys. We're only human.
Sissy Spacek, before she would go on planning to play Carrie. So, and of course, our book to screen will be To Kill a Mockingbird, and that will be by Harper Lee, and the film, which is 1962. And of course, we'll be continuing our Doctor Who series, which is the Kirikia Moranis, and of course, Batman the Animated Series. So today's good night for myself. Good night, David.
Hi, guys.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Vix.
Good night, everybody.
And we'll see you next week for M from 1931 by Fritz Lang and Badlands from 1973. Good night, folks.
You want to tell me what this is all about?
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left. Cause I've been blasting and laughing so long that even my mama thinks that my mind is gone. But I ain't never crossed a man that didn't deserve it. Me be treated like a punk, you know that's unheard of. You better watch how you're talking and where you're walking, or you and your homies might be lying in chalk. I really hate the trip, but I gotta low. As they croak, I see myself in the pistol smoke. Fool, I'm the kind of G the little homies wanna be like, on my knees in the night, saying prayers in the street light. Been spending most of their lives living in the gangster's paradise. We've been spending most of their lives living in the gangster's paradise. We keep spending most of our lives living in the gangster's paradise. We keep spending most of our lives living in the gangster's paradise. Look at the situation they got me facing. I can't live a normal life. I was raised by the state, so I gotta be down with the hood team. Too much television watching got me chasing dreams. I'm an educated fool with money on my mind. Got my tin in my hand and a gleam in my eye. I'm a loped out gangster, set tripping banker, and my homies is down, so don't arouse my anger. Fool, death ain't nothing but a heartbeat away. I'm living life, do or die. What can I say? I'm 23 now, but will I live to see 24? The way things is going, I don't know. Tell me why are we so blind to see that the ones we hurt are you and me? We've been spending most of our lives living in the gangster's paradise. We've been spending most of our lives living in the gangster's paradise. We keep spending most of our lives living in the gangster's paradise. minute after minute, hour after hour. Everybody's running, but half of them ain't looking what's going on in the kitchen. But I don't know what's cooking. They say I got to learn, but nobody's here to teach me. If they can't understand it, how can they reach me? I guess they can't, I guess they won't, I guess they front. That's why I know my life is out of luck, fool.